And we're live.
Hey.
Sup? Yay. So you were just asking me about St. Patrick's Day. Like, I think the last couple of years I've actually gone out and had some green beer with a couple of friends, but like nothing happening this year. Just hanging out, you know, like.
Yeah, I haven't really gone out for St. Patrick's Day the past few years. It just one of those things that just seems like too much of a nightmare to deal with at the bars. Like,
yeah, it does get really busy. Plus, it's also a Saturday night, so it's going to be super busy because everybody's going to be trying to get in and shit. So, I mean, there's the regular bar crowd that always goes out on Saturday. Plus, there's the St. Patrick's Day people who are like, "Oh, it's St. Patrick's Day. Let's go to the bar."
Yeah, but you know, today just been a pretty lazy day for me as well. I got a haircut, being all prim and proper now. Ugh.
Why? What was wrong with your hair before?
I'm sorry.
What was wrong with your hair before? It was just long.
It was getting shaggy. Like it was just been a couple months since I got the last haircut, so just a little shit.
Yeah. Well, it looks good. So, you know what was really funny is I was going to talk to you about this. I was like, what are we going to talk about? Oh, yeah, shit. There was this weird-ass drama that happened on YouTube yesterday where that guy, like, I think it's a guy because they did say that they were gender fluid. And they were like, sometimes I feel like I have really effeminate characteristics. So when I feel like that, I'm a girl. And it's like, sometimes like there are men who have like effeminate characteristics. It doesn't fucking make them it doesn't make you a girl. It just makes you a guy who has some effeminate characteristics. I don't know why there's this need to be like, oh my god, I feel like super bitchy today, so I'm a woman today. Like, like I don't know what it is. I had put a tweet out about the weather, which was it was like, oh my god, look at the weather. It's going to be like sunny the next few days and shit. And I'm like so excited. And then I get this weird message. I have to find it. And I thought this person knew you, but they just kind of tweeted at you on one of your random tweets as well. So I was kind of like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like they're asking me to help you realize Devon's a horrible racist right winger or something like that, and talk to David Sherrod, alternate facts, because he can spot racists. I'm just like, what? Who are you? That's not the first time something like that's happened to me, though. Not with that account, but like a couple other times where I just tweet out something and some rando will pop up saying like, why are you a fan of Devon Tracy? He's a horrible racist and a secret Trump supporter. I'm like, what are you talking about?
I think Devon's made himself fairly clear on the whole like Trump thing. Yeah, and anyone who doesn't get that obviously has some kind of an issue. Here it is.
Like occasionally, like very, 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 very begrudgingly, he will say Trump is kind of Trump's side when it came like to the whole kneeling thing, I believe. And obviously that's not because he has any particular love of Donald Trump, far from it. It's more like when he begrudgingly defends him as more to poke holes in regressive agendas. Like, no, like he'll be like, there's a gazillion things that are wrong with Trump, but you're not right about this one. Obviously hates that dude.
No, so weird. So here it goes. I posted the forecast for the week. There's like 3 days of sun. And then I get this video. Watch this. I hope it'll change your mind on imperialism. So assuming that I'm an imperialist, okay? I don't even think Devon is an imperialist. Like, I wouldn't even call him that. And I'm just like, what does this have to do with the weather? And then they respond, nothing. I just found the video. And knowing you are associated with Devon Tracy, who promotes white nationalism and NATO, Israeli, US, UK imperialism, I thought maybe that video would open your eyes. And I'm like, it's so funny because there was a situation like, I think like 4 to 6 months ago where this guy like was trying to save me like, oh, you're just nice to these people because you have to be. And I'm like, what do you mean nice to these? I like these people. Like, these people are my friends. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And this guy's like, oh, you know, I just wanted to, this is the message he left on your thing, was like, I need to convince Amy that Devon is a horrible person. And I'm like, you sons of bitches, like, come here thinking that I can't make these assessments on my own, like I'm a fucking child or something. Do you think I'm like some kind of mindless Devon bot that's just like, Devon Tracy, Devon Tracy? Like, no, that's not how it fucking works. So I find that pretty insulting. And it's like, then he starts mentioning all these names. Kevin Logan has debunked Devon Tracy, and so has Jeff Holiday and Crown and T, of all fucking people. It's like, well, get the fuck out of here.
I don't think he said Kevin Logan, but he said Cenk Uygur.
He said Kevin Logan too.
Oh, did he say Kevin Logan as well?
And one of the responses to me, yeah.
You know, when I first started watching Devon's video, and obviously when he constantly goes after the Young Turks, I always did wonder, did they know who Devon Tracy is? And I saw like a video, you know, where Cenk vaguely mentions, like, you know, people call him a fat brown buffalo online, but I was never quite sure until, like, you know, I saw like Devon and Brett Ehrlich go at it on Twitter or whatever, and you know, obviously Kyle Kalinski's the only one who's vocal about, you know, who Devon he is, and like, you know, their disagreements. He's the only one who's like spoken on air about like him even acknowledging who Devon is.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. They never ever address any of his points, and it always comes back to Devon Tracy's a racist. Like, okay, how? You're gonna explain how? Why? Because he points out crime statistics and you don't like them? Like, racism is it's like a hot button topic for people. They just don't fucking like it. And they don't like it because the truth makes them uncomfortable. So it's like, you can't have a fucking conversation with anybody. You know what I mean? If the first thing that's going to come out of your mouth when you look at the crime stats is, well, that's racist. Incarceration is just racism. That's proof of systemic racism. And it's like, why is that? Like, how does that make him a racist? It's just so fucking retarded.
Yeah, well, it's just that whole, you know, it just the whole buy into the white people are guilty of every race, of all crimes against humanity. So I think people get a very, you know, I hate this word is so played out, but triggered by that. Like, but it's the only way to really describe it. It's just like, whoa, what are you saying here? Like, cute. What Devon's saying. But then when you actually listen to what he says, it's you know, makes a lot of sense.
Like, I have never heard him say anything that was incorrect. I think the only thing people have a problem with is the way that he talks. Like, oh, great, now we have the fucking tone police over here. You know what I mean? And it's just like, oh, you don't like his tone? Like, do you think he's like, it's like people think that they are being acknowledged directly. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, if you are somebody who thinks that he's addressing you directly and his tone bothers you, maybe that's something you need to think about on your end. It probably has nothing to do with him. He's just spitting facts and talking about real life shit. People just find it really uncomfortable. And then people come after me, like there's been 2 or 3 of them that have the savior complex that are just like, oh, I want to save you. You're like on the wrong side, Amy. Like, I can't believe that you talk to this guy or you fucking promote this guy so much or whatever the fuck you want to say. And it's like, number one, Devon Tracy is fucking awesome. Like, he is a friend of mine. Our communication is past the YouTube stage, so it's just like I know him more than anybody on the internet who thinks they know him, and it's just like, I think I can make that assessment on my own. If our conversations and like all the time that we have communicated outside of the YouTube sphere was shitty, or I thought he was a douche, I probably would not want to associate with him. But he's fucking awesome. So it's just really sad how people will like take, I don't know what they take from watching his videos, and then they'll try and be like, "Oh my God, I need to save you. Devon Tracy's a horrible person, Amy, and you need to see it." It's like, oh my God, like go fuck off. Like, do you get shit from anybody about that whole Devon Tracy thing? Because I remember he came after you, and you were like, I actually like him too, and yeah.
I don't know, like I don't know, like there's some, you know, on the internet there's some like, you know, more well-known flying monkeys like Leica or Billy, but you know, so but you know, me, like I'm not really really well known. Like I have flying monkey, like that's about it. So it's just like people just looking to start crap. You know, with anyone associated with Devon Tracy. But yeah, but for the most part, you know, it seems to be, you know, I try to get along with most people, and even people who I'm friendly with people who don't like Devon Tracy, but you know, we never really engage.
Mm-hmm.
So we just leave that be.
Yeah, and like for me, it's like, yeah, when it comes for me, like to me, when it comes to taking a side, it's like, sorry, like that's my friend. I have his back. I think he's awesome. I know him, and that, like, that's that. And I hate when people who don't know shit try to tell me shit that is wrong.
Well, I'm like you. I'm by no means like a close associate of Devon. Like I've had like, you know, the very few Twitter interactions I've ever had with him, and that one live stream I crashed with it. That's all, pretty much like, you know, my association with Devon Tracy. You know, not, you know, he doesn't really know who I am. You know, like he'll probably see me in his Twitter feed and pretty much go like, oh yeah, that guy. So pretty much everything I know about Devon's either like, you know, from his YouTube or, you know, the few people who've actually talked and hung out with Devon themselves, like Claire or David. But yeah, anyway, it's weird with Twitter, like on Twitter, like I don't have that experience on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
It's really bizarre. Like, you know, the Crutch crew, like Aaron and Mike and those people, like, you know, they blocked me some time ago apparently, but you know, when we go at it about whatever reason, I'm thinking like, this doesn't exist for me on any other social media format that I have. I don't
even have Facebook. Like Facebook for me got super annoying in November 2016 because everybody was just like so obsessed with the election. Like I used to be really into American politics. It interested me greatly, and I really like to pay attention to all the ins and outs, you know? Like I used to watch fucking C-SPAN, not C-SPAN. What is it called? What is your thing called? Is it? No, you're like where they have like the government shows and they show Parliament.
Well, you mean like actually showing Senate hearings and things?
Yeah,
like that?
yeah.
And yeah,
it is C-SPAN, right?
Yeah,
C-SPAN. Like I used to watch that shit, and like I used to like watching the hearings and stuff. And after that, I just couldn't handle it because people just got so ridiculous after the election. Everything has become so politicized, and it's so fucking obnoxious. Like it's just seeped into every fucking corner of life. So now it's like I'm on the opposite end where I'm like trying to escape shit. I don't want to watch the news anymore. I don't want to do any of that shit. I just find it so frustrating to listen to. And everything on Twitter, like everything is made political, you know? Like It's incredibly frustrating. It's kind of taken the fun out of things. It's difficult to talk without bringing politics into the conversation. And it's just like, you know what? Some issues, all issues can be discussed without a right or a left. Like you can talk about issues without being like, well, I'm on the left, so I have to think this way, or I'm on the right, I have to think this way. So it's like, the fuck?
Yeah, I'm just, the whole, being mad about Trump doing this and this like every day. I can't do that. And every other day now, it just seems to be like another midterm election. Like last Tuesday, there was a midterm election in Pennsylvania. It was either Monday or Tuesday. But anyway, yeah, and everyone was like, we gotta have Lamb win. And I'm like, I don't know who Lamb is, and I don't really care. It's just like a lot of this stuff. I got really sucked into the election, and then slowly once afterwards, I'm like, I can't keep up. This is just draining and kind of boring. Certainly more, different interests going again. Like if I watch YouTube, it's more about the atheism or anything else that I watch, and occasionally I watch like history YouTube, like Townsend. You ever watch Townsend? Well, that one, yeah, I only just got into him like a couple months ago. It's mostly a history channel about 17th and 18th century history. A lot of it's cooking related, like how did they brew beer, how did they make barbecue, but then they also talk about the history, like how an itinerant preacher, what their daily life was like, or what the Hessians went through during the Revolutionary War, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's that
information that's good enough.
Yeah, I always like that Revolutionary War era type of history. It always fascinates me.
I started watching this show on Netflix called World War II in Color. Like that's my favorite. That's my favorite like history shit is World War II stuff.
Wow.
And there's something really fucking creepy about seeing like Hitler moving and in color and stuff. Like it has a different effect, and I'm not even there.
Yeah, it's a lot more real and immediate. Like a few days out this colorized photo of a young girl who was killed at Auschwitz. Her mugshot. And I'm like, whoa, it just makes him horrifying. Kind of like the whole thing gives it a distance. Like, oh well, this has happened a way long time ago. I can intellectually, I know what happened was horrible, but you don't really feel it until you see it in color.
Yeah, it's super creepy. Like you see Hitler sitting in an open vehicle, and just crowds of people lined the streets, like cheering and screaming for him with like the swastika on the flag. And I'm like, oh my God, this is fucking insane. I can't even process this properly right now. Like it doesn't even seem like it was real. You know what I mean? Like it was you see him with like Mussolini. You see like there was some recording of Stalin and oh my God, who is the British Prime Minister? He's like the most important. Churchill. Yes, Churchill, sorry. Stalin, you see Churchill, you see, I think it was who was the president at the time? FDR, right? Yeah. Like you see them together and you're just like, this is some really weird shit. I don't really know how to process this right now. But I like watching it. I mean, it's good to have not a fear really, but like it's good to see that stuff. And I feel like a lot of people actually are just not aware of it because it's so easy to call someone Hitler or a Nazi these days. And it's like, you people don't even know. Not Stalin and Hitler, Wisty, Stalin and Churchill and FDR.
Yeah, like it kind of, I normally refrain from just calling anyone, even in the alt-right Nazi, like, you know, I wouldn't call Richard Spencer a Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's a racist. He's a racist white nationalist, but, you know, he's technically not a Nazi. Like, for me, you know, I'll call someone a Nazi, like, you know, Andrew Anglin or Weeb or something like that. You know, the people who run the Daily Stormer, a self-described neo-Nazi website. And I believe Weeb has like a swastika tattooed on his chest. So, you know, I have no problem calling people who identify as Nazis Nazis. But
and like it's
yeah, it's so ridiculous. Like
it's a weird, it's weird to hear people talking about like, oh my God, white supremacy right now is all the rage. And it's like, where? Where? So it's okay to be like, hey, Black pride, brown pride, Asian pride. But as soon as someone's like, I'm proud to be white, it's like, white supremacist. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, I'm not allowed to be proud of my heritage and my race and stuff. That's automatically white supremacy. It's so, I just don't understand how the glaring hypocrisy is overlooked like that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, well, I mean, it's okay in certain instances, like, you know, today's St. Patrick's Day, so Irish pride. Irish pride, or, you know, maybe like Italian, whatever, or something like that. You know, if it comes from a certain ethnicity, then I think it's okay to show pride. But, you know, just it's the when you put like, you know, I'm proud of being white, that's when people freak out.
But it shouldn't be a problem, is what I'm saying. Like, if everybody else can be proud of being what they are, why is it not okay for whites to be proud of being white? Why? Because they did some bad shit in the past? Like, Black people act like Black people didn't do fucked up shit in the past, or other, like, people didn't do fucked up shit in the past. Like, like, slavery is always the big one that comes up, and it's like, who sold the slaves? Anybody? Oh, and then it gets quiet, and nobody wants to talk about that shit. Like, nobody wants to talk about that.
Yeah, like, in fact, a video that pointed this out to me, like, you know, was Sargon, like, you know, over a year ago, when I'm a fan of his. You talked about a British comedian saying, like, you know, Britain's role in the slave trade was awful, but then Sargon actually went into a really good detailed analysis of the history of Britain's relationship with slavery, and, like, you know, they were one of the first people to put an end to it. They would enforce, you know, anti-slavery laws and actually, you know, stop the slave trade going on, which I always thought was pretty fascinating. But now I don't really watch Sargon anymore. It's just pretty much anti-SJW shtick the entire time.
Yeah, he was actually on the Kumite yesterday, talking about how he wants to win against the SJWs. Like, he is the anti-SJW crusader, and he's like talking to Tonka about how, like, yo, man, I can't see SJWs taking over and changing policy. I need to win. I need to do this. And he's like, it's funny because he's like, you know, I think that he's talking about Jim, right? And he's talking about how Medicare is someone who's really good at riling crowds, and he's like wasting his time by not taking a position on the whole SJW thing. And it's like, dude, not everybody wants to be a fucking crusader for any side.
Well, I mean, like, Sargon is pretty much just, that's his thing. He's the top YouTuber, you know, out there. Yeah, it just, like, that shtick gets old very quickly, because it's like, you know, oh, we can't, like, everything is just social justice that needs to be, you know, pointed out. You know, kind of like how Ruben he's for free speech, and he puts everything in the framework of, this is a free speech issue, and it's just like, yeah, whatever. I mean, don't themselves like that, see everything through their worldview, kind of like how Anita Sarkeesian views everything through
the lens of feminism. Yeah, like, everything.
It's they pretty much have become the thing they hated. Like, you know, they see everything through that type of framework or lens, you know, be it a feminist lens or an anti-SJW lens or a free speech lens. It just, yeah.
So I'm just gonna say this on record, and I think I have before, but like, I can't fucking stand modern day feminists in the Western world here. I think it's just such a misguided movement. Like, all the stupid shit that they bitch about, and I'm talking about the extreme end, right? Like, I in any way don't want to be associated with them, but because they're the loudest and most obnoxious, like, a lot of the time I think if especially men see this, it deters them from wanting to like be men with women. You know what I mean? I'm not a fucking child. I can handle myself, and like, to have that as a representative in any sort of way is just super fucking embarrassing, and I hate it. And like, there's just like this extreme dislike for men with those women, because the kind of men they want probably don't want them. And it's just like, it doesn't matter. You're never gonna fucking force men who don't want you to want you. And you're especially not gonna get that by being a shrill harpy bitching about like mansplaining and manspreading, and like, why are men more prominent in this position of power? Or why are men more CEOs? Or why are men more this? And why are men more that? And it's like, well, if more women wanted to do those things and achieve those goals, I'm sure they could. But like, we are affected by our biological imperatives too. You know what I mean? Like, we are just geared towards certain activities, and like, each gender has certain proclivities, and it's like, we can't even talk about that. Yes, and like, it's like, people think that, oh, like, women are like this, men are like this, it's the end all be all. And it's like, no, there are general trends in behavior. Anything outside of that is just something that's outside of a trend. Obviously, we're not saying those things don't exist, but you can't force numbers to be something that they are just naturally occurring as. And I can't fucking stand that shit. And like, Anita Sarkeesian still going strong. That bitch makes so much money just like doing nothing.
Yeah.
Yelling, screaming. Everything.
Tell you, like, the truth, like, I stopped really paying attention to like the feminist versus anti-feminist. Like, I really got into that, watching all the YouTube videos, but now it just like, just has no interest for me. But there are been a couple times in the real world that, where I've gotten so used to, like, my clicks in Twitter and watching YouTube that, like, when I talk to someone in the real world about like how they see the world differently, like, oh, right, there are people who still genuinely believe something like in the pay gap. Like, a few weeks ago I got into a bit of an argument with some people, like, discussing about the pay gap, and they're like, well, it's more like, the average earnings of women are lower than the average earnings of men. And this person was like, I've heard that before, that's BS and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, women have been paid less, are unfairly paid less because of reasons. And I'm just like, well, it's illegal. It's illegal to do that. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, well, yeah, in I forget the name of it, but the act signed in 1962 said it was made illegal, and they still didn't buy what I had to say.
And it's like, how do you have a conversation with people like that?
Because it was the Women's March that came up. They are supporters of the Women's March. I am not a supporter of the Women's March. So I think that's why it came up in the first place. To their credit, though, like, they thought I was being a little ridiculous coming at it with that opinion, but they didn't like go, you're horrible and misogynistic or anything. So in the real world, like, when you come across those people, they can be pretty reasonable, kind of more of an SJW tendencies, can be pretty reasonable when you debate them.
But I mean, like, for example, look at what happened to that girl who made that movie. I can't remember the name of the movie right now. Like, she went around wanting to interview, like, men's rights activists. And
what are you talking about?
Yeah, and she was a feminist, and then she completely changed her position after talking to a few MRAs. And what did the feminist community do to her? They totally fucking excommunicated her and talked shit about her and said she's basically a piece of shit. So it's like, okay, you guys are fighting for women's independence and women's rights. Until they don't agree. Yeah, the red pill. Thank you, Rick. Until they don't fucking agree with you, with your ideology to a T, then it's just not okay. Then they're not allowed to be independent and think on their own. Like, you're a fucking gender traitor. It's just like people who are like, you're a race traitor, you're an Uncle Tom, you're this, you're that. It's like they have all these fucking smears and shit. And it's like, do you not see that now you are being discriminatory? Like, you are the people who are like, we're not racist. They're the most racist. The people who are like, we're anti-fascist. Like, look at fucking Antifa. They're fascist as fuck. Oh, yeah, it's okay for them to use violence when people don't agree with them, or, like, they won't let people talk. They'll just barge in on people's talks that people pay for. Those events are organized. They just barge in and they fucking start shutting shit down. It's like, okay, that's not what free speech is. Okay, like, it's so retarded.
Yeah.
It's like, how are you supposed to get anything done if we cannot, like, just sit down and have a conversation? And the thing is, it's like, I understand you hold your position strongly, but if you are not willing to put what you believe through a fact checker and be open to changing your mind when new facts come in, well, you're just a fucking idiot. Like, that. What else can you say other than that? If you're not willing to have your mind changed when reality is so starkly in your face, what the hell are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
How are we supposed to have conversations? This is why war happens.
Yeah, I remember, like, around New Year's Eve, I was visiting my friend, and we went out, and we all went out. It was him, his fiance, and a friend of theirs, and I don't even remember how it came up. Like, we started arguing about white privilege.
Mm-hmm.
They believed in white privilege. I did not. And I think it was specifically, like, talking about police shootings. Like, they believe in systemic racism. And I try to explain to them, well, no, it's not systemic racism. It's, you know, people, the perpetrators involved, like, you know, gave pushback to the cops, and the cops reacted accordingly, and they just weren't. Eric Gray. Was it Eric Gray? Was the guy with the chokehold? Who was put in the chokehold in New York City?
Yeah, the guy who was selling cigarettes, right?
Yeah.
So Eric Gardner. Eric Gardner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That one's a little bit more messed up because, like, the cop, although the cop did use, like, in a chokehold that, you know, wasn't part of protocol or whatever. Overall, I am on the side of the cops, like, because he was giving the cops crap, and he did, you know, he was resisting arrest. Mm-hmm. But however, if he was maybe 200 pounds lighter or whatever, you know, he probably would have survived. And if he didn't stop, you know, if he just complied with what the officers say, he would still be alive. And again, they're like, how could you say that? So if I go and jaywalk against street, I should expect the cops to, like, put me in a chokehold and kill me? And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. But yeah, it's like, that is one of those things. I've gotten so comfortable, you know, with these views on Twitter that I forget in the real world, you know, there's still a lot of pushback. It is still, like, the mainstream view on, you know, all the mainstream views on feminism and race relations. You know, it's one of those things that, like, there's still a long way to go. But I think people are a little bit more open to it than you would probably realize, that you would think, who hold those positions. You know, just, I try to be not antagonistic as possible. So I think it's a little bit easier to hear from me. These arguments, I'm not like, full bore jumping down people's throats
Mm-hmm.
when I.
Well, I mean, like, there's a lot of points of contention right now, just over political matters, and the biggest one is gonna be, I know this because like next weekend I'm hanging out with a friend and we're going to a friend's house and he's like a big fan of Jordan Peterson, right? So it's like that's gonna be a big one over here for Canadians, because I think a lot of people think he's like the Canadian Messiah, like, oh, clean your room, that all that stuff. And like, it's funny because, sorry, this is like a total change of topic, but it comes down to like people who have a huge following, you know what I mean? And using that following in a responsible way, which is what Sam Harris talked about, because he's coming down here in June. I'm going to go see him and Jordan Peterson. They're coming down in June. Yeah. On the 23rd. And I have tickets to go with my friend. Now, like, when I first got introduced to Jordan Peterson, I really liked him. You know what I mean? Like, I liked his lectures. I like the different perspective on the biblical lectures and shit. And I liked his psychological lectures. Like, they were very informative. And there were some things that I did get out of it. But as soon as he garnered popularity, he became more and more of a charlatan. And, he's religious. As we've seen in like a lot of the breakdown videos Devon has done on Jordan Peterson, like, he can't even properly articulate his beliefs. He can't answer simple questions. He's very convoluted, and he's very florid, and he likes to use so much language where it's unnecessary. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I think the smartest people refine their use of language so that they use the least amount of words and they explain things simply, like Sam Harris. That's why I really like Sam Harris. Jordan Peterson, on the other hand, total opposite. I mean, I tried reading his fucking book, the Maps of Meaning book, and it's like,
Was it 12 Rules?
No, not that one. Maps of Meaning. It's his academic book, and it's like that thick, and it's like, I think it's like 900 pages or something. It's really crazy. And it's like, he uses 3 paragraphs to explain something that's incredibly simple to explain, but he just draws it out. And like, you see it in interviews as well, where it's like he just tries to seem profound, but he's not really saying much of anything at all. And I just think that is a dishonest way to communicate with people. And I think it dupes a lot of people into just falling into a trap because, oh, look, he sounds so smart. And like, I don't necessarily like that. Like, in a time where communication is becoming paramount in order for people to move forward, the last thing we need is somebody who's going to twist and turn language just to make themselves seem more profound. I mean, like, Steven Pinker and Joe Rogan did a JRE recently, and Pinker talked about this, where he's like, the reason that like people are there's so much bad writing out there is because I think academics have a tendency to need to sound a certain way to like prove their intellectual prowess. And it's like, I don't know. I don't think that's the way to go. And I'm not sitting here saying that I'm an intellectual, but if you want information to reach a larger group of people, you do have to be able to explain it in the simplest of terms. You know what I mean? And like, when you read Peterson, like Maps of Meaning, for example, it just seems like it's designed to confuse you. Like, there are some concepts that are easy. Like, okay, there are underlying archetypes in certain stories, and there are certain elements that every story needs in order to be a good story to his estimation. You know what I mean? And I just don't think that everything needs to follow a certain formula. Sure, maybe he's found them in old ass stories and he's like links them together and blah, blah, blah. But the way that he explains it is just like, why do you need 100 pages to explain something that could have taken like 5?
It's a lot of sound and fury meaning nowadays.
Yeah.
like it's one of those things like on the surface seems pretty profound and meaningful, but then when you break it down, it's like, wait, he didn't really say anything. Like, what do you believe? Like when people ask, do you believe in God? God, you know,
God.
And he goes in that weird thing of like, people ask me that question, want to put me in a binary, and I'm just like, and I refuse to be put in this binary, and it's like, what are you talking about?
I mean, that's not a difficult question to answer. Again, like Peterson is somebody that I did used to like, but I just find him so incredibly obnoxious and pretentious when he's being asked a very simple question. So, hey, do you believe in the resurrection and Jesus Christ? Well, what do you mean? Well, I guess that depends on what you mean by Jesus Christ. Like, what the fuck do you mean? I guess it depends what you mean by Jesus Christ. I mean, you're either a Christian or you're not. You either believe in the resurrection story or you do not. And then in the same answer, he labels it a story, but it's like, and then he's like, oh, I haven't really figured out, like, there's some other element that I haven't really thought deeply enough about yet. And it's like, it is a fucking binary question. Like, it's yes or it's no. And why is it so difficult for you to say so? And like, it just seems like he's a psychologist, right? I understand that it's psychologically comforting to believe that there is something greater than oneself or greater than humanity, like just for the sake of comfort, right? Because the idea of death is terrifying. And I understand that. But at the same time, we shouldn't be encouraging people to have psychological safety blankets when we can encourage them towards critical thinking. You know what I mean? And not believing in age-old tales that were for us when we were in incredibly primitive states, when we were like our brains are not where they were before. They're different now. Like we're so far ahead from 2,000 years ago when those stories were written by other people. And I get that we like to use metaphors and symbology and representation to make sense of our world and to like get a deeper meaning or understanding of a situation or of our predicament here as human beings. But I just don't think that it's helpful in the long term. And like, I just think that he capitalizes on that fact. You know what I mean? And I think he uses it to his advantage because the guy makes like so much fucking money from these people who support him, which I bet are majority religious.
Yeah, like 50 or 60,000 a month on Patreon. It's like, whoa, that's not pocket change. And I think Billy talked about this too in a video he did about Peterson. It's like, Peterson will tell people, clean your room, and everyone thinks like, oh, this is so profound. And Billy was saying like, no, their parents should have done this. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? Just parents should have like instilled that and not let Jordan Peterson find that and make bank off of it.
And like Steve Pinker and Sam Harris just did the first book club talk together where Steve Pinker discusses his book, and they sat down after and they talked for a while. And Sam Harris said that there seems to be this need for some kind of quasi-religious, like some kind of quasi-religion. So because people are finding it difficult to like find meaning in their lives. And it's like, well, you have to reframe what you value. That is up to the individual. You're not going to find meaning from these like outdated concepts that are they're not relevant anymore. The only reason they are relevant is because people keep them relevant. And I don't think it's fair that like Jordan Peterson pushes that as like a viable psychological way to like find meaning. I think it's so misguided, and I think it's wrong. And like it as Sam said, it is intellectually irresponsible. Like you're tacitly implying that people need some kind of you know, amorphous thing that they think is bigger than them in order to have meaning in their lives. Well, what about the people around you? What about the friendships and the relationships and all that kind of stuff? And like, it's not just archetypes to people. Like, that's the thing. Sorry, Chris Dangerfield, but I mean, there isn't. Sure, there may be good stories, but those archetypes exist in other stories. Go read some fucking Harry Potter. Those archetypes are present in those stories too. They're present in Lord of the Rings. There's always a bad thing to fight, and there's always a greater good, and there's always some goal or something bigger than you that you need to work towards to attain. But you don't need to implement some kind of fucking god in order to get that. And like, in order for the species to progress, I don't think that the message that, you know, we need religion or God to get that should be pushed by anyone. I really do think that's intellectually responsible. I think that's seeing people as their children and not capable, critical thinking adults. And the people who aren't, or who have difficulty with it, we should be trying to help them out of it. Like, I personally don't feel comfortable treating people like they're infants. I would rather expect more out of people and find a way to get them out of that. And it's like a false sense of security to have God. You know what I mean? And that's just my opinion, guys. Where are you? You left. You're not on camera anymore.
I've been seeing in the chat that there was a problem with my camera. It's not coming in as clear as it should. So I just put it on the screen. You know, just put it on the photo. Because it was kind of, I just look at the stream and it was just kind of bothering me because it'd be all faded or whatever. So, yeah, but I'm still here. But yeah, it's just, you know, when it comes to the idea of like these stories, like, you know, being the basis of your entire life. I forget I mentioned it, but who talked about it, but someone was saying, like, you know, we only believe it because it happened so long ago that we don't know really how it happened. All we have are the stories to go off of. So, like, you know, when it comes to something like Scientology, you know, that was created by a sci-fi writer of all people. We actually have photos and recordings of L. Ron Hubbard. So for those people who are
dude, there's footage of that guy stubbing his toe somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, people are basing a religion off of this.
Yeah, so it's easy for us to be like, oh, how can you believe that stuff? Like, you know, the dude's a science fiction writer, and you believe the religion that he created. Like, what? How? What? I don't get it.
I feel like it seems that like human beings just have a propensity towards believing. You know what I mean? There's like they need something to soothe the angst of just existing, because like we all have to live with this existential angst. It's terrifying. And like, I just don't understand how anybody is going to be able to deal with that angst without at first confronting the truth about reality. And secondly, like, just putting a Band-Aid over the problem and thinking that, oh, there's a God, there's a purpose for me after this life, you know? And like, it makes you squander the life that you have now. And like, I don't understand. I don't see any benefits to it at all. I really don't. People will say, oh, well, you know, sorry, I need to tell Chris Dangerfield that I love him. Thank you, Chris Dangerfield. I just don't think, I mean, this is like a direct analogy to Black people and crime. It's like they have to hold themselves accountable for the things that they've done, right? And the only way that those things are going to be corrected is if they're corrected from within the community. Same thing with just like being a human being. Like, there's some shit that you just have to go within and figure out on your own and realize that, like, dude, we're all in this predicament. This shit is fucking scary. We're gonna die. We do not know when. None of us know if there is anything after. So we should live like there isn't an after, and this is the only chance that we have. And like I feel like we take it for granted because we don't acknowledge it. And it is a huge pill to swallow. Like your esophagus may not be able to handle it, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. Because as time goes on, you're going to lose people you love. And you're going to start getting the calls one day that, hey, this person died or that person died, and it's going to suck. And the best way to deal with that is just to acknowledge that that is just a part of life. Like, nobody is trying to ruin life for you, or this is just the predicament that we're in, and it sucks. And we just have to deal with it as it is. And not dealing with reality isn't just a problem when it comes to dying. It's a problem when it comes to every issue that we are experiencing as a species, as separate countries, as as whatever, like as any group. Like there are little issues everywhere, and unless we acknowledge those issues at their face, we're just not going to be able to implement solutions or think of ways to deal with those things better.
Yeah. Were you raised religious?
I was sent to Sikh private school. So my parents kind of are. I never really subscribed to the idea of a deity or religion, even though my parents sent me to a school where we had to sit in temple for the first hour of the school day. First half an hour. Hour? Yeah. Something like that. I had a really rough childhood too, so that made it even more difficult for me to believe in any kind of higher power or anything. So I never really did. I wasn't introduced to the term atheism until around 2011, like around when Hitchens died. What about you?
No, I wasn't raised religious. I wasn't raised religious. Like, parents never took me to church, other than weddings or funerals. I've been to church on my own volition more times. Made me go for any reason. I'm baptized Catholic, but that was mostly because of my grandmother's insistence. My grandmother was a very, very Catholic woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, almost didn't marry my grandfather because my grandfather had a previous marriage before. Mm-hmm. And in the Catholic faith, the church can only recognize a person's been married once. Or, if the first spouse, didn't die already. Like, they don't, divorce is heavily looked down upon in the church. So, and he already had one marriage under his belt. And so she was very hesitant to marry him because, she wanted to get married in the church, and the church was like, we can't marry you until he knows the wedding, knows the first marriage. And eventually he did, but it's crazy to think about, like, that was a huge sticking point that almost prevented them from getting married, was the fact he was hesitant to annul the first marriage.
Yeah, churches fucking creep me out. They really creep me out. Like, any church building. I mean, I'd like to go see the old ass churches in Europe and stuff, but like, there's just something incredibly creepy about them. And I don't know what it is. Like,
yeah, I mean, like, I actually do like churches, like, building wise.
Yeah.
Years ago, on a class trip, we went up to Quebec City, and we went to this gigantic cathedral just outside of the city.
Mm-hmm.
It was gorgeous. I do like staying. When I was in San Francisco just a few months ago, I made a point of go checking out Grace Cathedral, because that one is that's notable because it's like, a smaller version of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go in mainly because I was wearing my AAU sweatshirt. I'm just thinking, like, maybe that's not really.
I fucking wear that everywhere.
What?
I wear my AIU hoodie everywhere.
Well, yeah, I was wearing a at the time, but I'm like, certain things.
Your internet is cutting out a little bit.
Oh, really? Yeah, my internet is a bit weak at times. Can you hear me fine?
Yeah. If you want, like, does your phone work better? Because you're not using your camera anyway, right?
Yeah, to tell you the truth, like, the Wi-Fi on my phone will go in and out. My computer's a lot better with that. Do you want me to log out and log back in?
If you want to try that, sure. I'll entertain the chat and see. Okay, cool. Man, this conversation happens a lot right now. I've been having it a lot about this whole like religion, atheism thing, and I don't think it's gonna go away. You know what I mean? Who the fuck is that? I can tell they're gonna be blocked. So the religious and atheist conversation that has had some life breathed back into it. Hey!
All right. Hey. Yeah, sometimes my internet goes in and out. That's what happened the last time. I stream with guys, my internet will sometimes go completely out and wouldn't let me log back into the stream. But hey, it's working again. So anyway, we were talking about churches.
Yeah.
I can certainly appreciate the design of the churches and the stained glass. It is even though I'm an atheist, I do appreciate learning about the histories of the churches, and how incredibly influential they were in the scientific process. Because strangely enough, during medieval times, they were the church was strangely enough a place where science did thrive. Granted, very, very, they edited the history and the theories to try to match their world point. But a lot of great scientists were in fact clergymen. Like a guy who came up with the Big Bang Theory, that was a priest. He was an astronomer priest that came up with that. So it's not entirely true that the church, suppresses history, suppresses, scientific fact. But great discoveries came from the clergymen of that time.
But even religion is a force against the like objective of science, which is to reveal as much about reality as possible through systems and methods that are viable. You know what I mean? Like, we don't use our feelings when we're looking for anything, or when we're looking to observe things in the world and learn more about them. We don't use our feelings. We have to use very we have to use skills of observation that we've acquired over years of doing science, which is just a methodological way of observing data, right, to make sure it all fits.
Oh, right. I'm not saying church didn't do nothing and never suppressed any, doesn't go against science at all. I'm just go against science, the Christian right, held back stem cell research during the Bush years. So obviously, they can, prohibit scientific discoveries.
I
don't know.
At this point, it just seems like a force that is trying to work against science, because there's certain aspects of scientific discovery that they don't fucking like. And because they're antithetical to the values and views of certain religions, there's a huge pushback, right? The biggest problem we're facing today is Islam, and that's not a problem that's going to go away. And I don't think that it's that any religion should be given a pass on this. I think they're all bad, and in my perfect world, the elimination of religion would be something that I would want. I would want people to not subscribe to religion, because I really think it actually incapacitates people's ability to think critically. When you just give up and you're like, oh, I can just replace the gap with this fucking amorphous concept. It's so easy to do. I mean, even if there were clergymen back in the day who made scientific discoveries or were scientific, you know, there are people who think that that religion and science can exist side by side. Yeah. I do not believe that at all.
Yeah,
at all. Like, they come from two different places in terms of observing the reality around us. One is fairy tales and stories, and one is observation, making predictions.
Yes. Absolutely. I wasn't like tribal religions. You know, religion can be good for science. I'm just saying, like, historically, during the medieval times, like, you know, a lot of scientific discoveries were made from scientists who were clergymen. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, do they have any of those big old churches where you are? Like, you know, any big, beautiful churches?
Part of the world? There are a couple of, like, old school, like, brick, old school churches that are large and, like, made of brick and stuff. There's a couple of them around, but
yeah, a really good city to go check out those old churches is like the Boston area.
Hi, Marc.
What's up? How's it going? I missed out the last 2 minutes because I was trying to join.
That's okay.
Mm-hmm. What are you guys still talking about?
We were talking about churches and, like, old churches and shit.
Oh.
Yeah, I was saying to check out old churches is Boston. You know, because it's a very, very Catholic city. Mm-hmm. So, you know, they have the Archdiocese of Boston there. And plus, they have all the old, like, colonial era churches there as well. Like, I forget the name of the actual church, but, all right. So, you know the poem, The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere?
No.
I know the name, Paul Revere. What was he doing? He was going through the streets shouting something, right?
Yeah, like, you know,
what was that?
Like, his claim to fame was that he was part of the Midnight Ride to warn the colonial militias against the British coming to seize their arms collections in the Lexington Concord area. And so there's this poem by Worth, I believe his name is. I can't even remember the words, but anyway, part of that poem it talks about an actual aspect of that ride was there's this church that they're supposed to. The British were coming by either land or by sea. It's like one if by land, two if by sea, and so on the Freedom Trail, which is the historical trail that goes throughout Boston. You know, that church is still there, you know, where they actually put up the lanterns to warn.
So what's the point?
About the
yeah, well, what was the relation to the whole, like, religion argument or is being had?
Oh, we kind of just switched topics. About talking about the actual old churches themselves, you know.
Right. I think they're fucking creepy. Churches really creep me out. I don't like them.
I find mosques are prettier generally, but yeah, I've never been in, like, the old architecture or anything like that. But some people really appreciate that shit, and it's understandable, I think.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, like, there are some beautiful buildings around. I know there's a lot older ones in Europe and shit. Maybe I'd like to see them just to see them, but they still fucking creep me out. There's something, like, they have like a haunted property to them. You know what I mean? Like you go there and you just feel like, oh my God, this place is filled with like the most fucked up spirits ever. Like fucking sodomizing priests and shit. Like that's all I think of when I think of churches is like.
That's the question. Like, are we stereotyping it too much? You know, like I think that way too. Like I go into a church and I'm like, oh, I'm thinking of all these negatives.
Stereotyping? What the fuck are you talking about? Like the Catholic Church is well known for this, so it's true.
Well, yeah.
It's like how Chinese people are bad drivers.
Right, but I'm like, you might be missing out on the beauty of the cars they design, you know, because we're focusing on all the bad women drivers.
Well, okay, let me just say that I can appreciate that Asian people make wicked vehicles. Germans are better, okay, but they make great cars. And they're also fucking awful drivers.
I'm just getting back to the baby in the bathwater argument, which is like more, you know. I know you guys will disagree with, so I'm just trying to like poke some heads here. Fight me. Somebody fight me on something.
Tell me, what do you want to fight with me about? Because you and I don't agree on Jordan Peterson, do we?
Who, me and you?
Yeah. You do so like him. Like
depends. Yeah. I can't hate the guy because I don't really care about the Christian thing that much. Like I think it's bad, but the reason why I think he's really wrong in his interpretation of Christianity is something that even atheists do, according to me. Even in their like ontology about what exists and what doesn't exist and their metaphysics. So I have an issue with. To me, when Peterson gets into all the free will, hard problem stuff, that's the problem for me. That's the bad ideas. And then of course, like if religion comes back, we're gonna have militant religious people, which will be really annoying. And I don't think he keeps forgetting that somehow. He's always talking about like humans need some kind of structure because we're irrational. Fair enough. But if we do impose a structure, that structure itself will be misconstrued again. Like there will be like his new interpretation or whatever, or his more sophisticated interpretation, it's going to be run over by literalists. So
okay, but why do you need a structure from religious texts? Like, are you saying there needs to be some sort of metaphysical element in place in order for us to be like implement structure? Like,
no, I think it's that. I think he might be on, like, I don't know. Essentially, I'm pretty agnostic about whether, I don't even know if Christianity is good or bad. I just know it's wrong, right? It's false. There's some bad things.
If it's wrong, how can you say you don't know if it's good or bad?
Because I don't know what the alternative is. Because I don't know whether.
So are you arguing with me about like, okay, if there's no religion, what do you replace it with? Is that what you're coming at me with?
Yeah, exactly. I just don't know whether the general public can actually be sane atheists. From my impressions, that a lot of atheists are very analytical people. And I think that's genetic to a certain extent. It's not just cultural. I think there's like this variation across potential personalities and traits. I think atheism is something that's not easy for most people. Or at least that's what I'm agnostic about. Is that
okay? But we also have this. You and I have a contention with the deriving ought from is too, don't we? Because I'm
with Sam Harris on that. I actually.
Oh, you are with Sam Harris.
Yeah, I'm with Sam Harris on that. I might disagree with people because of how they argue that.
Okay, so let me bring this into what we're talking about now. Okay, so if you can derive an ought from an is, meaning like if like basically what that's saying is your behavior should be driven by factual information, aka reality, right? Now, I do understand and I take your point that I do think people find it difficult to cope with reality, and like people do feel they need something to replace religion. Now, in my mind, reality would be that. How on earth are we going to get people to deal with reality better if we just don't get them to deal with reality and keep replacing religion with other band-aids that are not ultimately going to help in the long term?
I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. I know that me personally, I'm very content with going in the analytical approach, and I have no problem with dying or fear of dying or needing structure to my life or whatever. Like I'm always I have way too many projects. I'm never bored.
Yeah.
You know? But a lot of people, I think, really do turn into nihilists. I don't know whether there's other cultural elements combined with a lack of religion that might be causing that. So it's not per se atheism, right? It might be other things connected with atheism. Those ideas, they just don't work well together. But I do have the impression that, especially, it's the whole social justice thing. I think that opened up my eyes when I saw social justice type of rhetoric take over intellectual spaces. I told myself, well, why can't to me it's religious. There's no difference between a militant religious group that have blasphemy laws and whatnot, and essentially superstitious beliefs, anti-scientific beliefs, and them. They're all in the same. And I just saw them take over, and I saw them take over the academic world. And as far as I can tell, the academic world is the most intellectual world, and they impinge in places where they have no business impinging. And why? I don't know. Idiots kind of just took over. And why did that occur? I think it's because there was kind of this victim cult. But where did that spring from? Why is there this? Why are we so well off, but we have like half of society whining and complaining? It seems to me like they don't know what the fuck to do with their lives. They're all kids, and they just don't have meaning.
Yeah, they're lost. Like that's why I think people think Jordan Peterson is like such a great role model, because he's getting out there and saying, oh, clean your room, you know, you have to like find meaning. But like finding meaning comes through doing difficult things. And like one of those difficult things is like putting effort into implement structure in your life without the need of religion or some sort of like, that's old. Like, why? I don't even think that should be a thing anymore. And like, again, I think it really does come down.
There's a lot of people who they can't be explained to and then change their behavior. And most of us can't, right? We know that, let's say, veganism, right? Did you guys see Tristan talking to Sam Harris?
Yeah, I saw him ask his question. I was watching that live.
Right. So their answer was that the problem was apraxia, right? That like we can't will ourselves to do what we know we should do necessarily. Well, if that's the case, we can't just analyze the world and go, well, this is the right thing to do. These are the goals we need to achieve, and this is how we get there. We can't just do it. So I think the things Peterson is trying to talk about, maybe I think some things are wrong, but whatever. But I'm trying to be charitable. I think being charitable is actually the right approach, and when you're trying to understand people, is that he's telling you start with something small. That's what he means by clean your room. Is start with something small. You get a nice fix from it. You get a little high, and then you get addicted to doing things that are productive for everyone. So in the long run, we're all benefiting from each other's behavior, and it's kind of similar to Ayn Rand's objectivism, like just be selfish and take care of yourself. And that's actually the most moral position you can have, because no one's going to need to take care of you, and then you're going to have a surplus in society.
Yeah, I think clean your room refers to like handle your own fucking problems first, right? Like as soon as you're able to handle your own problems, then you can project that out into the world and help other people with theirs if they need it. But you're not useful to anybody if you can't even take care of your own bullshit.
Right.
But I like, again, like that's a great message, and I think that's pretty
right. That's not being taught to people, as far as I can tell.
I mean, it seems like it, because everybody thinks this is like some revolutionary information.
Because we're 30 and we grew up in the 90s, and since the 2000s, since like all this social justice crap took over the like elementary schools and high schools, they're teaching kids dumbass ideas about like you could get anything you want if you chase your dreams, or like no regrets. Like,
you know what I hate? I hate the be who you are. Just be who you are. No, motherfucker. The whole point of getting better is not being who you are. You actually have to work against yourself in order to get ahead. But like we get complacent and comfortable, and like changing is difficult, man. Like it's really fucking hard to do. We
should be working on what's difficult, not endorsing what we already do naturally, which sucks. Right?
Yeah, we are inclined towards laziness. We are inclined to stay the same. Like, and yeah, okay, maybe in that sense, like there seem to be a lot of lost men out there. You know what I mean? Like they're just like they're lost. They don't know what to do with themselves. And like they find some sort of father figure in Peterson. But it's like, I don't think he's the right kind of person to have as an example. Like
I think it's pick and choose.
Yeah.
I don't see why we have to become so obsessed with like I find it kind of ironic, because if we're not into idolatry, we should be pretty good at going, well, that's the good parts, those are the bad parts because of arguments we put forward. And then we just go, well, okay, well, fuck the rest of it, you know? We should argue against idolatry and against like religious cult and things of that nature. And Peterson is building a sort of cult. Well, we argue against it, you know? He
is. I would say Peterson fans are culty.
Yeah, but I have to say Sam Harris fans too. When I go on like subreddit,
but they all get culty, don't they? Like
everybody gets culty. That's the point. We all become fucking religious morons. It's, well, not all of us, but I say like a vast majority of people, and including fans of atheists. You know, and that's a realization I have to agree with Pearson on, or that's the realization that makes me agnostic about his message. That even though I disagree with a lot of parts of it, I don't know whether humans are capable of being productive atheists. I think it's like that South Park with the beavers in the future. I don't know if you saw that. It's like, you know, remember they're like beavers in the future. There's a couple human species, I think, and then there's like a couple species of beavers or different groups of beavers with different cultures or cults or whatever, and they're all different atheist groups. The Atheist Alliance Association, the Atheist whatever.
Yeah, that shit is so gay though. Like people have taken. Well, who is that going?
Is it me?
I don't know, but turn your camera down a little bit so I can see your pretty face more. There you go. So the thing with the whole atheist thing is it does seem like people have some sort of propensity to make something the thing. It needs to be bigger than them. So atheism can't just be a lack of belief, you know? It has to be atheism plus. It has to be, oh, hey, let's have our own values and shit. And it's like, it totally fucking gets ruined and then falls into the religious category. And then the religious people can then say, oh, hey, atheism is a religion too. Because they do the same type of thing. They turn it into a doctrine. And it's like, nah, bitch, it's not a doctrine. I just don't believe in anything until there's evidence for it. And that's all I'm trying to say with that. Like, I don't think it's impossible to be a productive atheist. I think it's totally possible. But like, if we're gonna tie atheism into some sort of system or like, you know, some kind of dogma, that's where we're gonna have a fucking problem. It's not a dogmatic thing.
Oh, I just got up.
I never understood the concept that atheism is a religion. Like I've never understood how people see it as.
Well, they just see it as a group that's you know, that's puts faith in their idols, you know, like my idol is always right, you know. I don't think there's any good argument as to why just being an atheist is a religion. That just doesn't make sense. That's that's just like, that's not how those words work. But we can still behave like religious people. Like what we criticize in religious people that we see as bad, we might have a lot of those same behaviors. We just don't have the faith one when it comes to like some metaphysical shit.
But you're talking more about like tribalism, right?
Right. Yeah.
So tribalistic behavior is something that we're just not going to, like, we're not going to get rid of that. That's a genetic thing, right? You tend to cluster with people who are like you. And now it seems a lot more like like-minded people are going to cluster together because that's just the nature of things, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we're ever going to be able to avoid tribalistic behavior. As much as everybody bitches about it, sorry, guys. Like this is genetic predisposition.
So the question is, okay, so we're always going to be tribal, but we can obviously try our best to fight against it. Kind of like, you know, the concept of freedom. We'll never be free, but we could try our best to always get the closest we can to it. But so now we consider the structure that we had, the like overrunning our society, whatever type of religious structure. What parts of it had a good use, and should we replace some of that?
I honestly think the best part that I can think of
in any way connected to the bad things. That's the problem. Like, are the good things connected to the bad things? Can we do one without the other?
I think so.
Like, can
we can do community without all the worship and all the bullshit. You know?
Yeah, I'm sure we could do community. I think, like, I always argue.
I think community is actually the most important element that, like, for a long time, religion has been given the edge over. Like, I think it's important for atheists to get together. I just don't necessarily think it's important for us to, like, get together and be like, hey, we need to have these meetings. No, we just need to stand together. That's it. That's all that needs to happen. We need to defend our cause. It doesn't need to be a dogmatic enterprise. It could just be a, like, you know, we stand for reason and science and the Enlightenment. We're just a bunch of people who agree that these things are important.
Yeah, like that. One thing I'm starting to really notice is that anyone who's just open about being an atheist, you know, is critical of the religion, you know, they're just kind of they're giving eye rolls, and people tweet at them that stupid Fedora Shrek meme or whatever.
Oh.
You know, it's like, it really is just insane just how much it puts people on edge just when you are open about, like, yeah, I'm an atheist. Like, I don't believe in God or religion. And that just, like, you know, what's going on? Like, one person I've noticed who's been getting a lot of crap recently, this past week, was Ricky Gervais. Because his new comedy special just came out. You guys watch that?
No, I'm watching it tonight.
It's hilarious.
Was it?
Ricky Gervais is making, you know, is a very vocal atheist, and a lot of people who hate Ricky Gervais always make fun of the fact he's vocal about being an atheist. Like, you know, as if he's just trying to be, like, you know, an edgy elitist or whatever.
Right.
When he's open about stuff like that.
But I feel like a lot of that, the neckbeard thing, it tends to, like, overlap. There's atheism, and then there's, like, anti-social justice people who are called neckbeards too. I don't know if it's where it stems from. Maybe someone who's been around for a while knows.
Yeah, I'm sure there's, like, a wiki on how that Fedora Shrek meme came.
But I mean, we're telling them they're, like, the center of their, like, lives, their emotional, like, beliefs and everything is kind of bullshit. So,
but and that's the problem.
You know, like, it's like, hey, you've been praying to nothing.
Yeah, I get it, but, like, the thing is, these people, it's not like their beliefs are so tied in with their identity and their emotional security. That's what the fucking problem is. You know what I mean? Like, if I found out tomorrow that there was a God, okay, then there was a God. I was wrong. Big fucking deal. But, like, the way these people behave, if there isn't, like, imagine trying to talk to someone who's religious and say, imagine there is no God. Like, it just fucking shakes them up. They can't do it. Like, they feel psychologically destabilized because of it.
Yeah, but you
know, the thing is, it's not even just religious right people about this. A lot of progressive left people.
But that's because they think they're being protective parents. Oh, we need to let people have their emotional security blankets, you know? Like, I just don't agree with that at all. Yeah. I don't agree with the idea of psychological fucking blankets. And maybe it's because I had to deal with tough shit when I was younger and it fucking sucked. I didn't have anybody help me. So, like, do you think it's a good thing that when people go through tough shit and, like, there isn't actually somebody there to help them, that they're subscribing to some false and, like, non-existent sense of security? Like, it's all in their head. The person they're talking to is them themselves.
Right. But the thing is, I think, is it the case that most people do that nonetheless? Like, think how many people actually, let's say when you're having these conversations, maybe you like getting to weird shit.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you know enough people that when you start getting into your weird shit, they're like, oh, here goes Amy again with her weird shit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all those people typically are like the type of people that'll be like, give me something that works for me to get ahead and get my goals. I don't need to know the truth. What are you talking about? Like philosophy shit, science.
But see, like, I don't know how to not think like that. I don't know how to not look at something as shit. Yeah, and I get that. Like, I do understand them from the point where it's just like it's difficult for them to cross that barrier, but it's like we need to find a way, because in my head, looking at something the way it is, looking at a steaming pile of shit as a steaming pile of shit is how I would like people to think, and I think that's the right way to think, because look, now you have a steaming pile of shit to deal with. You can deal with this steaming pile of shit in the best way possible because you know what it is and you've addressed what it is.
But let me make it work. Let me make it work.
If you're gonna be like, oh, the steaming pile of shit is like sparkly and it's actually not that bad, you know, like it's all right. Like, no, like don't justify fucked up shit. Like, deal with it as it is.
Hey, you know, the steaming pile of shit is culture, right? There's a part of culture pile of shit. Well, the argument is there's a part of your biology that's tied into that culture that's also a steaming pile of shit. You need to consider that steaming pile of shit and that connection. It's an inconvenient truth about our like human nature.
Yeah,
and, dude.
Yeah, well, remember we were talking about that a few weeks ago. I was listening to the audiobook Sapiens, and they were saying, you know, one of the main founding blocks of, you know, society's forming was that groups tended to create myths and, you know, legends in order to like base the rules off of society.
Well, what's science?
Yeah, there's an evolutionary need for that, but it doesn't mean we can't move past it. Kind of like how from an evolutionary standpoint
that works.
Yeah, from an evolutionary standpoint, you know, people are drawn to eat sweet and salty things because, you know, thousands and thousands of years ago, those weren't as plentiful, so people just would gorge whenever they get the chance. Could be months before the next time they taste something like that. And now we don't need that because there's a 7-Eleven around the corner. So it's important to understand where it comes from, but like, you know, it's just something we need to ditch.
Right.
Yeah, I'm currently reading. I'm currently reading Steven Pinker's A Blank Slate, and like, I think a huge fucking problem that we suffer generally within culture, within everything, is that we deny human nature. Like, this is why, like, as militant as I am in my atheism, and as much as I think that like we should just abolish religion and it's something that should be a thing of the past, I do understand that there was an evolutionary basis for it. I mean, it was evolutionarily advantageous at one point. I get it. Like, of course it was. Everything has an evolutionary root, right? But at this point in the progression of our species, I just find that it is maladaptive. Now, we know not everything, of course, but we know quite a lot about human nature and the way that our brains work to some degree and the way that our bodies work. And there's a lot of things that we've learned from the past that are clearly wrong based on the information that we have acquired over studying over the last few 100,000 years, whatever, right? So we need to move forward with the information that we have observed now. And it just seems really simple to me. And like, I get that some people cannot function without that psychological safety blanket, but if they need a replacement, like, I just don't think there's any other way to deal with it but to deal with things as the way they are, cold hard facts. And there's no way to like gradually bring somebody into that. You know what I mean? And like, they just need to reframe the things that they value in their life to provide them with meaning. Because like, how can you say like God is everything, God is this, God is that, when every single day in your lived experience, the things that actually make you happy are the people around you and the work that you do and your career and the money that you make and whatever the fuck else it is. It's all tangible things. It has nothing to do with God. And I don't understand why God gets the fucking credit for all the good things. And then when it comes to the bad things, it's like, well, just part of God's plan. Like, we don't have an appropriate emotional response to the bad things if we're religious, because we just think that God meant for it to be this way.
That was a nice rant.
You know what I mean, though, right? Like, it's just.
Yeah, well, like, God gets all the credit, but you know, like, that's how they think. So people are dumb, man. Like, it's.
I don't like that. Like, I don't know. The sad thing is like, dude, every year I get a little bit more cynical about people. I get a little bit more misanthropic. I do, because they're. Hi, Paul.
What's up, man? Oh, okay.
Hello.
Hey, Paul. What's up, man?
How's it going, everyone? Hey, I had a lot to add to the conversation, but boy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Amy just said many of the points I wanted to say, and a lot more eloquently than I think I could have said it.
Hi, Randy.
What's up?
What's up, man?
Hey. See, like, this is something that Grant and I have been talking about, like, over the last few weeks, too. Like, it doesn't fucking matter how much I understand that people need certain crutches and shit to get through life. Like, I get that, dude. Like, I need to smoke weed to live my life and be comfortable and not be exhausted every fucking day of my life. I get it. But that's a tangible thing that can work into my life, that is real, that is helping me. Like, there's no false sense of security that's being provided by smoking weed. I can have a good night's fucking sleep. But when it comes to, like, dealing with huge things like death and, like, the idea that other people around you that you love are going to die, like, how is it better to just live your life thinking that that problem is going to be taken care of because they're going to go to heaven or, like, whatever? What does that emotional security blanket provide in the long run? Do you think that's going to make you cry less? Like, I think it actually fucks up our ability to learn to grieve when you think that.
It softens the blow, and I think that's actually a detriment.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I always wondered what they really believed. Like, do some of them believe, and then when the person dies, are they more or less likely to believe then?
No, they still believe. I see it with my family all the time. When somebody dies, they are honestly thinking that, you know, that person is in heaven automatically.
Like they'd be smiling way earlier?
Say that again?
They'd be smiling way earlier than you?
Yeah.
Whoa.
But
yeah, I mean, I've seen that, like, you know, when I've had family members die, you know, the deists and the religious people in my family would think, like, and they're in heaven looking down on us. Like, yeah, but for a lot of people, that doesn't shake. Death in the family doesn't shake.
Oh my god.
Their beliefs. If, you know, probably reinforces them because they need that. Or I mean, like, they need that as like the I can't deal with what's happening, so I'm using that to cushion the blow.
But I don't even think they really believe that the person they love is going somewhere else, because if they really believed that the person they loved is going to an afterlife or a heaven, why would they be upset? Isn't that a good thing?
Well, that's the thing. They're only upset at the funeral home.
Really?
They're only upset at because I can only speak from, you know, I'm from the Bible Belt, so I can only speak from that. After the funeral, after the, you know, burying of the body, they get together at the family's house or somebody in the family's house, big ass meal, big celebration. Everybody's laughing, having a good time. It's done in their minds. They don't really grieve as much.
I don't think that's correct. Like
that's so fucked up.
I think it impedes the grieving process. Like, you are supposed to feel shitty, you know.
That's what I mean. It softens the blow, but it's unhealthy for people in the long run.
Yeah. I can't remember if it was God is Not Great or the God Delusion, where there was an anecdote that was brought up, how I think it was like a bishop who was on his deathbed and the doctor came in to inform him, you don't have long to live. And the bishop went, oh, well, that's amazing. I'll go up to heaven as soon as possible. And I think it was Dawkins who wrote that. He was talking about how, like, you know, how the deeply religious people, how he was shocked that deeply religious people, you know, aren't like, you know, ecstatic of the day they die, so that way they can join heaven. Like, you know, they tend to push that as far off as they can possibly can.
Right.
But, you know, it's really rare for the person, you know, who's, you know, facing mortality to be like, oh, yes, awesome. I'm finally going to join God and join paradise and be blessed for the rest of eternity.
When you get into the fundamental people, you know, the people that are so hard up on it, they're almost at the point they can't wait to die. They can't wait for the world to end. You know, they're so looking forward to it.
Yeah. Ironically,
I've actually talked to people around my area. They're hoping that the world ends tomorrow so they could hurry up and go to heaven.
And that often becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy with these people.
Fucking deathists, man.
No, strangely enough, like, you know, a lot of the reason why a lot of religious right Christians support Israel is because they feel it.
That's where Armageddon's going to happen.
There,
yeah,
it is, yeah,
exactly. They're doing it to, you know,
to kickstart
speed
it.
up Armageddon.
Yeah. They're not pro-Israel for the fucking citizens of Israel. They're pro-Israel because that's where Armageddon's going to take place, and that's how we can get to heaven a lot quicker.
Yeah. So they're supportive of Israel, but for the wrong reasons.
So I see with people like that, I can give a fuck if they have any type of replacement for, you know, what they believe in or what gives them motivation throughout the day.
The problem is, though, a lot of those people find their way into politics
Mm-hmm.
and get elected to high office.
You can't even be an
mentality,
American atheist politician. Like, that is a difficult thing to do. You have to conceal the fact that you're an atheist.
Yeah, like with Representative Barney Frank, I think of Massachusetts. He came out as gay in the 1970s when he was still in office, but it wasn't until decades after that that he came out as an atheist. So he was willing to come out as gay way, way before he came out as an atheist.
I think Barack Obama's an atheist.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
But he's not, but it was political suicide if he was to say so.
Yeah, ironically, he did come across a bit of a hurdle because of the, you know, preacher that he said he went to. It turned out he said some really horrific shit. It's like,
a black atheist.
I don't say God bless. I don't say God bless the USA. I said God damn the USA or something like that.
Yeah,
I think Obama
said this really horrendous, controversial stuff. But yeah, so I'm thinking, like, you know, Barack Obama said he was a Christian, said he attended this guy's services without really checking out what this guy was saying. So I think, you know, that hurt his campaign a little bit. Because I remember, like, when the election was going on, they kept running those ads of the preacher saying that, you know, more horrendous shit.
Yeah, Aidan just said in the chat too, like, Trump is totally an atheist. But what happened as soon as he started running?
Yeah,
he catered. He definitely catered.
You have to fucking do that because the majority of the U.S. are religious, and not only that, like, a shit ton of you motherfuckers still believe that the Genesis story is real.
That's how he got a lot of the conservative vote. As soon as he said he believed in God, that was the one thing that they needed to hear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, ironically, he's been able to push through a lot of their agenda, even though he's clearly not a Christian. So so I think a lot of them are just biting the bullets. Like, okay, I personally don't like the guy, but, you know, hey, he's putting my agenda through, so whatever.
I think that's all much is gonna change midterm elections. I suspect the Democrats can get control of both the House and the Senate.
Virginia already had theirs, and we swept blue. So
yeah.
I mean,
okay, so can we talk about this? I feel like most atheists go on an anti-religious crusade, which makes them come off as cultish and lame. What about the fucking religious people that go after the fucking atheists? Fuck you people who are gonna sit in the chat and be like, oh, it's fucking lame for you to stand up your non-belief in God. Like, it's not like religion hasn't fucked the world up. You know what I mean? How you're anti-theist? Well, fuck you, hellbound heathen, you piece of shit. Take a side. I am an anti-theist because theism has done nothing positive for us. Oh, does it provide you with some psychological stability, you fucking little bitch? Do you need to protect your family because they're fucking theists or some shit? They need to believe in heaven because they're not grown up enough to just deal with how fucking hard reality is. Some of us have to sit here and chew off like raw meat of life, okay? Because it fucking sucks and it's fucking hard, and I don't think anybody should be treated like a fucking child. Is that so hard? Oh my God, it's so lame how fucking anti-theists go after people who are religious. Fuck yeah, what the fuck do you think the position is? Are you retarded?
It's about rational thinking. If you want to put a pro on it.
Melted my face. That was awesome.
Ridiculous. Oh my God. Atheists are fucking lame. Okay, so I'm just going to sit here and be like, yeah, I'm an atheist. I'm not against religion. Yeah, just do your thing. If the Crusades happen again, if the fucking Islamists take over, yeah, sure, go ahead. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, put your women in burqas. Fucking cut their clits off. Yeah, go right ahead. I'm totally cool with that. Fuck you. If you think that's okay, you're the one who needs to fucking take a look at your own morals. Enough of this bullshit. Oh, it's lame how atheists go after the religious. Duh. Yeah, like, duh. What the fuck do you think the position is? The position is antithetical to the fucking religious. Jesus Christ. Like, oh,
after all...
Fuck the religious. What about the fucking Crusades? What about all the dumb shit that has come out of being religious? What about, like, the anti-science positions in religion? Like, fuck you people. Oh, my God.
After thousands of years, we finally get a point where we can actually open up and say something about it without anything happening. And, oh, God, would y'all shut up? I mean, come on. Come the fuck on.
Straw manning. So I'm straw manning from behind a screen. Do you want to come to Vancouver? I'll fucking slap your bitch ass. Jesus.
Yeah.
You think I'm not afraid to fucking have a conversation with you about this shit? You think I'm not going to be... And I am anti-theist. Okay, that is my position. I am against religion. I am against the practices of religion. That should be very obvious.
Yeah, that's another thing with the horseshoe theory that I find interesting. Like the far righters and the far left people, you know, they both talk about, like, you know, how they're both against anti-theism. Like, you know, Stefan Molyneux, who I consider to be the king of porch atheism, like, you know, he always talks about, like, how we need Christianity as a structure. Like, he's an atheist, but he's like
he's a religious apologist as hellbound heathen.
Yeah.
I'm anti-theist. Okay.
Yeah, but on the other end of the political spectrum is someone like Andy Kindler, who is just this horribly annoying comedian. Like, his Twitter bio literally says, like, anti-theist too. Like, you know, like, he constantly, you know, is just whinging at Ricky Gervais about, like, you know, being an outspoken atheist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, he's also constantly whinges at Sam Harris as well. Like, on We the People with Josh Zepps.
Mm-hmm.
I know that. Andy Kindler's been on a couple times, and he pretty much thinks Sam Harris is this horrible bigot, and, like, you know, thinks Sam Harris is this bigot spreading Islamophobia, and, you know, is bigoted towards the religious, and it's just like, oh my God.
Somebody here, okay? Let's try and jump into the other side, okay? Since I'm straw manning, tell me why religion is a good thing right now. Aside from the idea of psychological safety blanketry, tell me, what possible advantage could it provide? We don't need religion for communities anymore. We have the internet. We can make friends with people who are like-minded, who give a shit about us, it surpasses the idea of borders and anything and distance. You can have communities in so many different ways now. Okay, so we don't need religion for that. I don't know about you, but I'm perfectly comfortable with the idea that I'm going to die. You guys? Does that scare you? Yeah, I'm sure it scares all of us.
It scares me. However, I don't want to, like, live under the fear. I don't want to, like, you know, subject myself to the fear of, like, you know, whether or not I piss off a invisible sky daddy, as if I'm good enough to enter this magical place after I die.
Like, you know, how can you not be an anti-theist? Have you not seen some of the fucking abomination of writing in that shit? How can you not be? If you are not an anti-theist, you are not moral in my mind. If you're someone who's gonna cherry pick the good parts and be like, oh look, it serves a greater good because there's some good things in here.
There's some good things in Cat in the Hat as well.
There you go. Like, what the fuck is your point?
To make a fucking religion out of the Cat in the Hat is
just spread it around all over art, you know? Just replace art.
This guy wants me to invite him on. Should I? This is gonna be like fucking 5 against 1.
You know what? Hellbound Heathen's actually probably one of the nicest guys I've actually.
I'm sure he's nice. Look, I don't hate you, Hellbound. Like, I'm just riled up. This is what happens, okay? I'm passionate about my positions, and I'm gonna get yelly and screamy. There's nothing against
what I'm saying is the conversation you will have with him will be a good one. It's not gonna be yelling over each other and everything. He's like I say, he's an awesome dude.
Okay, I'm gonna do it.
I've done a stream with him. He's very nice.
I'm going to send you a Twitter, Hellbound. Yeah, I'm sorry. I get a little bit cunty about this stuff because, like I'm passionate about it. You know,
yeah,
like
I saw the clips of you and Friended going at it.
Oh, he is just the.
Now, that dude's a fucking prick.
No, just
Fuck
no.
him, man. Fuck him.
Yeah, exactly what Chris Dangerfield said. You can think atheists are lame without supporting their religion, though. I just do not understand how you can be an atheist and not an anti-theist. Don't those things go together?
Yeah, it really depends depends on the person you talk to what they mean by that. It's always for those people. I've always thought them as, you know, an atheist that supports like the, you know, all the good that you can get out of religion. It's one of those that's like they're atheists that wish that they could believe.
Mm-hmm.
They really want to believe, but they really can't.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what I'm gathering out of it. It's
okay.
Oh yeah,
they love that support structure because I'm sorry, they're weak-minded.
Yeah, I've been like, you know, I've gone back and forth on this issue, and I was on the porch, like, you know, a lot throughout my 20s. I was actually more of an anti-theist, like, you know, as a teenager, but, you know, in the 20s and during my 20s, I wanted to believe, you know, I went to church, not a whole lot, but somewhat. And it was like, you know, yeah, I did want to believe, I wanted to feel that connection, but then eventually, you know, it just kind of wore off and like, I don't really need that. Like, you know, to me, that's just an untenable position, you know, to believe in something without evidence.
Well, it is an untenable.
I completely understand where they're getting at. It's that want or need to believe, but it's BS, you know.
I just don't think he's going to present me with any argument I haven't already heard and disagreed with.
And he's here.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
Hi.
Nice
What's your
to
name?
finally
Am I
talk.
allowed to know your name?
Oh, shit.
Am I allowed to know your name?
Crap. Okay, sorry about that. I'm sorry. Go ahead. What?
Am I allowed to know your name, or do I have to call you Hellbound?
No, you can call me Ken if you want. That's my real name.
Ken?
All I had to do was ask this entire time.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Ken.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Amy. So, all right. So what? So I'm not an anti-theist.
You're an anti-theist, is what you actually said in the chat. So
yes.
Defend your position, Slayer!
I'm just okay. So this is my whole point. My whole point is that religion has been around for thousands and thousands of years, so it has some benefit to people. And my opinion about anti-theists, from what I can gather from talking and listening to people talk about it, is it appears that they are against religion. Like they believe that they want it wiped out, like it should not exist. Mm-hmm. Like everybody would benefit much more if a religion did not exist. Is that correct, or is that incorrect, or is it partially correct?
I believe that we would benefit moving forward if we slowly, like it's a vestige. It's a vestige. It's like something that doesn't need to be around anymore.
Okay, but atheism has been around for thousands and thousands of years too.
But I don't think the time matters. I think that's a non sequitur, Ken. Like it doesn't matter if it's been around for thousands of years. I've also totally conceded the point that it was evolutionarily advantageous to have it for a certain amount of time in our evolution as a species. At this point, I don't think it's necessary with the amount of information that is available to us.
Mm-hmm. But don't you, okay, so what is your opinion? Like, let's say that they outlawed religion. Let's just say some weird, wacky way. Religion was completely outlawed. What do you think religious people would do?
Well, I think you have to find meaning in tangible things in your life that we already engage in, like friendships, relationships, activities, like difficulties and stuff. Those are things we should be getting meaning from, because those are things we have to achieve on our own. Mm-hmm. We have to we have to work through those things on our own.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I believe that people will find a way to practice their religion, no matter what. It's like a drug. You can kind of break it down to a drug. People are going to do drugs regardless of whether or not they believe or they know it's good or bad for them. Okay. They will do it. And that's the same thing with religion. You are going to have religion. It's just the way it is. People are going to look up at the sky. They're going to find meaning in something.
Right.
They're going to just do it. And then there's also going to be a group of people who are just like looking at those people going, those fucking idiots. Why don't they understand that the way that the world works is this way and there is no sky daddy and all this other stuff? There's always going to be those two types of people. And if somebody came onto YouTube and said, those fucking atheists, I want to get rid of those atheists. They need to be eliminated. They need to be wiped out. I would be in their chat room saying, no. Atheists are good people.
I don't think religious people need to be wiped out. I just think religion and the ideas therein are not necessary anymore. That's entirely different from saying that we just need to get rid of people who are religious. Okay, I mean, it's more expressing a frustration with the incapability of critical thought. Like, it's not easy to accept certain truths about life. It's just not. Obviously, religion, I'm not saying religion isn't beneficial for some people, because it is obviously psychologically stabilizing for some people. I just do not understand, like, in terms of this species, with all the information that we have and we continue to acquire, why it is necessary to believe in intangible things that do not have a basis in evidence.
Mm-hmm. Then my understanding of what an anti-theist is incorrect. So why don't you tell me, Amy, what an anti-theist is?
I'm just against, well, anti-theist refers to being against the doctrines of religion, the texts, the practices, the worshiping aspect, the dogma. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Everything else kind of comes out of that, right? Like certain religious practices, certain modes of behavior come out of the things that are in those holy texts. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that ritual is important. I think that routine is important. I think it's important to have something that, you know, that like gives you meaning, but I don't think that you need to subscribe to fairy tales and stories in order to get that. I mean, like rituals, like we find value in things like burying the dead, right? And like celebrating certain milestones in our life. Like, I think those things are great, but I don't think we need religions and theism, particularly the texts, the ancient texts, in order to have those things. We can have an approach to spirituality, if that's what you want to call it, without all the dogma attached to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I guess I just don't have very good understanding of what an anti-theist is, because I thought, again, what I thought was an anti-theist was somebody who's, like you had mentioned, was completely against religion. But if you're against something, you probably want to get rid of it. You probably don't want it.
Well, eventually, yeah. I mean, these things are not going to happen overnight, right? Like, mm-hmm. People pass their religions on. Religion is a meme that is passed on from generation to generation. That's not just going to stop.
Yeah, you thought we were going to like enslave religious people? I don't understand.
Huh?
Yeah, like, do you think we're gonna like? I want to round up all the religious people, throw them somewhere, and nuke them. Like, what do you think I want to do?
Well, it kind of to be quite honest, it sounds kind of a little bit like that. because
Oh,
you
no.
want, you know,
We want to round up
I
the
think the
idea.
stance is not that
you're
it should be
getting
outlawed.
you're getting the opinion of somebody who's sort of on the outside. I'm just letting you know.
I think the position is, as an anti-theist myself, is
Mhm.
certainly not going to outlaw the practice of
No,
religion.
no.
But as Sam Harris says, I think culturally people should have to pay a social consequence for presenting irrational thoughts and irrational behavior, especially in the technology age that we live in now.
Mhm.
You know, humankind to destroy the earth at this point, and we really need to take a hard look as a society at irrational thought.
Exactly.
Because now that we have these powers at our disposal, you know, a handful of people can do a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And you just have to
I
put
agree with
pressure
you.
culturally, you know? You just put pressure and it organically changes. You don't need to like talk down.
Exactly. So like Sam Harris says, you apply social pressure.
It's more
So-
of a thing of just speaking out against it. That's basically the difference. Is it's one thing to just not believe, you know, being an atheist, but now we're at the level of just speaking out against it, being fully against it, and being open about it. That's really the basis of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really just trying to challenge the way that people approach things and think about stuff. So that's really kind of what I was doing in the chat room. Yeah, I am a bit of an asshole. I mean, Grant,
Okay, I'm a bit of
I'm
a
a nice
cunt,
guy, but I
but
can be an
get
asshole too.
along.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, yeah, you can call me out kinds of names and stuff like that. I mean, it doesn't really bother me.
Me too. Me too.
You know what I mean? They're just words. They don't
Yeah.
bother me.
We're just having fun over here. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a little
All
bit
right, well,
unhinged.
I'll hop out, but I think one important thing to understand is that religion serves a purpose for people. And I think that you have to kind of look at everything in a very broad perspective. And religion is one of those things. Yes, it has a lot of negative traits, especially with these nuts who take texts literal, but there's also a lot of benefits that religion serves.
But I'm not
people.
denying that. You know what I mean? Ken,
Right.
like, there's no denial of the fact that there are some benefits that people get from their religion. Okay. Like
Mhm.
it's incredibly difficult to deny that. My contention is that moving forward, I don't think that any modes of behavior should be encouraged due to religion. I think that moving forward, we can actually learn to live without it, and we don't need it anymore. Like, we are at a point in our progression, our evolution, where we are civilized enough, we have enough information where we can think through things, and we can just accept things for what they are instead of implementing fairy tales and things that don't exist. Like, I truly believe that everything that we do should have a basis in evidence.
Mhm. I agree.
Right. And like, again, I'm not saying that we should obviously we can't fucking kill all the religious people, you know, like this, like the removal of religion from the species is going to be an evolutionary process like everything else. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a gradual and slow transition out of being religious.
Right. But
You cannot force it. But at the same time, nobody should be forced to deal with policies and shit that is, you know, derived from religion, because people are religious.
yeah, I agree. I'm completely for the separation of church and state. I don't think there's any reason for religion to have any influence in politics or civic or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I also would like to point out that atheism itself has been around for probably very, very long time, at least a couple thousand of years. In Greece, there were people who were atheists. So I don't know if it's evolutionary. I mean, I just don't.
Everything
buy that.
has an
I don't think there's
evolutionary
enough-
route.
I don't think
Everything
there's
has
enough
an
evidence for
evolutionary
that.
route.
I don't think there's enough evidence for it. But I mean, I'm open to it. If you know of some source or evidence to prove that atheism is an evolutionary result, I'm
But
happy to
dude,
look into it.
every behavior has some sort of evolutionary route. I mean, it's just really difficult to decouple any
I think
kind
what
of
he's saying
behavior.
is that route goes farther back than, say, more recently.
Yeah, I mean, there's I forget exactly his name, otherwise I would mention it. But there was a famous Greek philosopher who was an atheist,
Oh
and he
yeah,
did
I'm looking
not
it up
believe
now.
in
Diagoras of Milos.
Yeah, thank you. So and also there's a lot of people way back before Christian times who were atheists. And so atheism is something that's been around for a long time, you know.
Mhm.
It probably would have been more prevalent if you weren't threatened with your life for being one.
Yeah, I think
days.
especially with the spread of Christianity, I think that yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with you, Grant. But yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe nowadays, especially with the internet and a lot of exchange of information, and I think, yeah, I agree that the atheist community, especially on the internet, has definitely, it seems to have been growing since I've seen YouTube. But I mean, even before that, like I have a brother of mine who's an atheist. I've known atheists. I'm an atheist. So there have been people who are atheists even before the internet. I think that now it's just that people maybe feel more free to speak on it and talk and exchange ideas, you know. But I just get concerned when people start becoming very, how can I say this politely, vehement about their particular position. And I think that can lead to, you know, it can cause problems that maybe they don't necessarily want to generate. I mean, it's the same thing with the far Christian right, you know, like they believe that everybody should follow Christianity and, you know, nobody should be able to believe anything else, definitely not atheists. So, I mean, it's just, I'm concerned that possibly this anti-theistic position is just getting a little too far to that side. And I just think that that's something that people just need to put in check. There's nothing wrong with being an atheist and being against religion. But
I'm going to stand up for my beliefs, though.
Yeah, of course. I'm not telling you not to stand up for your beliefs.
But like, I think that's where the, like, if somebody is passionate in their belief, it is going to come off a bit militant and vehement. Like, it's just, saw me just freak out at you from reading your chats. You know what I mean? Like, because
yeah, I know it affected you on the. It affected you on a
visceral level,
yes.
Absolutely, because
and you also insulted me.
Yeah, you're a shithead. Yeah. Religious people are not the only people who emotionally identify with their beliefs. I'm guilty of it too. Like my life is wrapped up in this because I don't believe, right? Like, of course, all my behavior, all like the way that I think is influenced by the way that I believe. And of course, there's going to be an emotional aspect to whatever I believe. And the reason that I hold so strongly and vehemently and do get offended, it is offense, right? Like I'm taking offense when people go against my position is because I truly believe that my position is the correct one, just like they truly believe their position is the correct one. I think I have good reasons to believe what I believe, just like they think they have good reasons to believe what I believe. And if you didn't have an emotional stake in your beliefs, then what the fuck, right? Like, yeah. Like, of course you're gonna be emotionally attached to those things because in my estimation, I truly believe that the more we get rid of religion, the better we will be as a species, the more conducive it will be to the success of the species, just to deal with reality. So if I believe something that deeply, and I think it's better for everybody, of course I'm gonna have that kind of reaction. I mean, we can sit here and have a conversation about it. I'm not gonna like shit talk or whatever, right? But like there's a little bit of fun and rabble rousing too. Like I like to shit talk and I like to be a bit of a jackass. So it's
like I said earlier, I don't mind, but I'm just curious what comment hit your nuclear button. Which comment?
The I'm an anti-theist.
And why did that bother you so much?
I'm an anti-theist because it just doesn't make sense to me to decouple anti-theism from atheism, right? Okay. Because God is very central to theism, in my estimation. So, like to say you're an atheist, like you have a lack of belief in God, and to not be against the doctrines from where that idea came from, just I don't know, it just doesn't seem. I might have overreacted too. I mean, hey, that's a possibility. Like, that's a huge possibility.
It happens. It happens. It happens.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to.
I wouldn't say Amy overreacted because, like I've been trying to say for 5 minutes now. There's a certain frustration level that comes with this.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, at what point do we realize that, hey, this shit is dangerous, this shit is harmful, you know, and why are we being told that, you know, maybe you shouldn't be so hard on it, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that there's definitely, knowledge is a virus, you know, and hearing people talk about stuff and people sharing their experience about things is infectious. And people who watch videos and listen to people who are atheists, like, for example, good example, Atheism is Unstoppable. He's an excellent example because he's influenced a lot of people on YouTube who wouldn't have been influenced if he didn't make videos. And that happens with people who watch your videos, Amy, and yours, Talking Donkey. You know, people watch those videos and they are infected with atheism, and it spreads. So I don't know how hard of a stance one needs to take against religion. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like one of those things when I was growing up. I wasn't very religious, but the times that we did go to church, it was just kind of like one of those things that we did. It wasn't, you know, I mean, it wasn't like we were really religious. We didn't have like a cross or a picture of Jesus on the wall where I was growing up. But occasionally my mother would go to Christmas Mass at Grace Cathedral, by the way, Eric, in San Francisco. So, yeah, I live.
So, are you infected with religion, Ken? You bastard.
I have been infected. I've been infected by all sorts of things, and I had to get myself inoculated. Yes. I mean, I'm a pagan, so I was polytheistic. I believed in multiple deities.
So, would you still say that's your position?
No.
Okay.
That's not my position.
So now you're an atheist. Wait, let me just get this straight. You're an atheist, but you're anti-theist.
No, I'm not anti-atheist. I did that to push your nuclear button.
Oh, you son of a bitch, you did!
Hey, you got to know how to be able to manipulate people.
I agree. I agree. Yeah.
So hey, I'm gonna jump out because I don't wanna hog your stream. But
no, you're totally welcome to stay. I mean, it's just a nice discussion because this is gonna be the topic, right? Like, this is a huge thing right now. This isn't gonna go away. This discussion is going to continue for quite some time, I think. And I think it's an important one. You know,
yeah, I agree with you. I think it is an important one.
And it's nice to talk to people that you don't always agree with too, you know, because it doesn't make you check yourself and like rethink your position again. And it puts you in a hot spot where you actually do have to think about it again. And I like that. I do like that. So, I mean, it's also a good exercise just to talk to people that you don't fully agree with, because those are the conversations that are most important and the most difficult to have, is talking to people that you don't align with on everything. You know, we don't align on everything. And it's just a good display to be able to have a conversation with someone on fundamental issues like this.
Agreed. So, all right, well, I'll stay, but I'm going to mute myself and I'll be right back. So other people talk, right?
Yeah. Yeah, man.
You know,
I never said I wanted
to. All these people who talk. I'm sorry.
You can make friends when you yell at people.
Yeah, if they're not crazy. Sorry, Paul, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, people making this argument that some people need religion. I wonder, of those people, how many of them would actually have that need if they were presented with other ideas, when they were young. I think
that's exactly it, isn't it?
It's comfort and complacency, really.
It's really hard to shake off something that you've grown up with. Like, if your family is Christian or Catholic or Muslim or whatever it is, it's incredibly difficult to not think like that when in your developmental and most critical years, where you're soaking up information like a sponge, you're going to the masses and you're learning these things, and like, you know, your family lives by the book and stuff. Like, even as you're older, like, it's so hard. Even if you have changed your belief, it's so hard to decouple yourself from it because it's just been a part of you for so long. That's the other difficulty of just like being a human, right? Like, we've all grown up with stupid ass ideas that we got from our parents that we're still like, oh shit, well, mom said this when I was like 3, this still might be true, man. Like, if I like don't go the other way when a black cat crosses the road, I might have some really fucking bad luck for the next like 100 years or whatever the fuck it is, you know? Like, it makes you think twice about it, and you can't always help it.
Yeah, but talking donkey, I disagree with that. I think that religion does serve a benefit for people. I think prayer, meditation, and faith is beneficial to people.
But
that's why they
okay,
practice.
but prayer and meditation are not owned by religion, and that's why I said earlier there are different methods to approach spirituality, which includes all the things that you just talked about, without invoking some supernatural being.
A deity.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you're against organized religion.
I'm just against religion, period.
Okay.
Because spirituality is not religion. You know what I mean? Sitting down and meditating, vipassana, like just, you know, focusing on your breath and paying attention to the contents of your consciousness, that is not religious. That is just sitting down and observing the contents of your consciousness, which is what the aim of meditation is. Like, there are
religions that use meditation in their practice.
That's fine. I understand that. But religion does not own meditation. And it doesn't, just like I said, it doesn't own ritual. It doesn't own meditation. You can completely decouple these things from religion and still practice them without there being some kind of supernatural being attached to that.
Okay. So I guess, all right, I guess I'm still a little ignorant on this subject then. So, okay, so anti-theism, you're okay with meditation and spiritual beliefs. It's organized religion that you're against, or religions that use meditation. It's just, I guess I just don't quite understand what it is. So it's organized religion you're against. What else?
Maybe I could tell you it's once you start, as Amy said, present the ideas of supernatural and magic and just irrational thinking, or thinking without evidence, belief without evidence. You know, as Carl Sagan said, the idea is to withhold belief until there is proof.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you know as well as I do, talking donkey. Sorry to interrupt you, but
his name is Paul. Just if you don't want to say.
Oh, well, that's okay. I mean, I'm respectful. I would call people however they, you know. Okay, Paul. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
So Paul, if you talk to a religious person, you tell them, I don't understand why you believe in your imaginary sky daddy. What's the evidence? What's the facts? What do you tell me? Why do you believe in this person? Because I have faith and I believe that person is there, and I've had personal experience, blah blah blah. And they'll tell you this whole thing.
But those personal experiences are nothing but the modulation of different neurotransmitters. Oh, those emotional. Okay, that's cool. If you can't explain that to someone and teach it to them, and they're not willing to be open to that factual information, what can you do? Because to them, it's their faith that is producing these results. It's not the modulation of neurotransmitters, which is actually what it is. You know, like that's exactly what's happening when you're meditating, or when you're like, a lot of people say that they have a spiritual or religious experience when they do acid or mushrooms. But what is taking acid or mushrooms or doing any drugs? It is just the modulation of neurotransmitters that is producing some kind of sensory effect.
Right.
You know? And like,
didn't
you actually don't even have to go. Oops, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, wasn't that like, you know, the main premise of Waking Up by Sam Harris? Was, you know.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's the scientific approach to spiritual claims. That's the whole basis of the book. He talks about meditation, and he talks about all these practices that have been claimed by religions for so long, but they don't need, like, you don't need a religious aspect to experience the things that religious people claim to experience. Like, to have one of those, like, deeply spiritual, like, oh my God, I feel like I had some weird connection to the universe or some crazy thing happened. You don't need religion for that. I understand that that is an avenue for people to feel that, and they do feel that. But you know how like when you go to church and there's like a crazy sect of, I think it's Catholicism or Christianity, where they like do glossolalia and shit, and they like speak in tongues, and like people get all weird and shit.
Yeah.
Okay, well you can sit in your living room and you can chant. And like over time, chanting produces a weird effect. Again, it's all just your brain doing these things. But people don't have an appropriate means by which to label those things. So they label them as religious or mystical or magical because they had such a strong feeling towards the experience. And I think it's people's like need to like label shit with things because they don't have the appropriate label. And then religion gets the credit for that shit. And I don't think it's religion that produces those effects.
Yeah, and agree. I agree with you. I think that there's also people who have, like, let's say, people who divine, divination. What they will do is they will see patterns in things, and by seeing those patterns in things, they'll begin to interpret. But what they're doing is they're projecting either their subconscious or their conscious onto what they're seeing, and then from that saying, oh, it means I have to get this because I saw this. They're going to confirm already what they believe. That's what they're doing. But they're using an outside something to reinforce their decision or their belief or their concept of something. So,
well, here's the thing with me too. I grew up very Catholic. I was very involved in the church, altar boy, the whole thing. Yeah,
I don't like where this is going.
No, I never had the belief, but I was definitely, very much into the community. But with me as a youngster, when I would ask about the very phenomenon that you're talking about, these experiences, and when I was presented with answers that were supernatural and such, as I grew older and started to figure, the world out a little bit for myself, I became resentful of that community for presenting me with these irrational ideas. So there is that component that ties into my anti-theism as well. I feel I was poorly served, as a child, being presented with irrational answers to very legitimate questions.
You were lied to.
Yeah, it's always the problem with religion. Like, no matter what good you can find out of it, if it's associated to something that turns out to be a lie, you're probably fucking over everything.
Yeah, because when I was in the chat and I was listening to the discussion that was going on, I was giving the label of religion to a much broader sphere of beliefs and spirituality. I wasn't just focusing on theistic beliefs or monotheistic beliefs or Abrahamic faiths. I was actually broadening it out to other faiths in the entire world, because there's quite a few of them. There's quite a few religions out there. So I think I don't understood I think I was mistaken about the word religion itself, what you meant by that.
Yeah, for me, it's just irrational thought.
Are you pulling a Jordan B. Peterson on me and like saying, what do you mean by religion?
Well, everybody does have their own definition. So yes, I was trying to understand what you meant by religion. Yes, I was.
Okay, but when I said religion, what did you think I meant?
I gave it a very broad. Again, I thought you meant all religions in the entire world. That's what I thought you meant.
Okay. So like including like Buddhism and stuff like that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Buddhism, Hinduism.
But I mean, I think it's fair to say that like there are obviously religions out there, for example, like Buddhism, that is entirely harmless, right? Like it does. There's nothing in the doctrine that says, "Hey, go kill the infidel."
Yeah, agreed. But that's right, exactly. I mean, you get out of Judaism, well, not even Judaism, really. If you get out of Christianity and Islam, yeah.
Okay, so I think maybe like. I guess the biggest ones would be the ones I'm referring to, the ones that actually have an effect in the world, which are your Abrahamic religions, Christianity. Yeah, Christianity and and Islam mainly. Catholicism is just a branch of Christianity, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Most like anything like well, not anything, but Catholicism, Lutheranism, Methodism, they all stem from Christianity. They're all Christian based.
Now it started with the Catholic Church for thousands of years. No.
Well, I think it started with the cult of Christ, the Christians. That's where it started, and then
well,
spread
until Rome took it on as a religion, Constantine.
Right, exactly, and he did that really, I'm sure, probably just so he could get converts and get more men. And
oh yeah,
I'm sure there was a political reason behind it.
It was a political movement.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The Council of Nicaea, he basically rewrote the doctrine to conform to what he needed to conform. It was a play of history.
You're roboting. Voice.
Robot lady.
Usually what happens with that is if you hit refresh or just reconnect, usually it clears it up.
Secret. I got a secret.
So here's a question. I understand your current opinion of religion, but do you think that moving forward it is a necessary facet for the survival of humanity?
I think that evolution is a, sounds going to sound like a stupid statement, but I mean it's a natural process, meaning that if something is no longer beneficial or it's no longer needed, then it's abandoned. And if other things aren't needed, they are.
But I get that. That's not the question, though. The question is, do you think that moving forward that it is something necessary? Do you think that religion, or organized or not, I guess, is something that is necessary in order for human flourishing?
I would say my gut says yes. I think that it is. I think that, religion serves...
I'm talking about, like, the Abrahamic religions here.
I think that Islam needs to go through a lot of reformation.
But then it's not what it is anymore.
That's but it's the same thing with the Catholic Church and the Christian Church. I guarantee you the Christians today are not the same as the Christians who were the cult of Christ back in, 1000 AD.
That was a lot of bloody centuries, though, before we got to the Enlightenment. We don't have time to wait around for Islam.
No, we don't. And
the other thing what is the need to...
going to be a reformation.
Yeah. What is the need to illuminate the world?
Religion is less of a religion. That's what's happening. Like, the only thing, like, it seems like all it's moving towards is, like, community. It's just something that is used to keep together a community of people. Now, I think we don't need religion. I think we need more community. We need more groups of people that can just get together and support each other and be loving without something telling us that that's what we need. Because human beings obviously survive best in small tribes.
Yeah, I mean, just like you can just find something to, find a similar interest to gather around and to meet up.
Yeah, organize the masses. And I think a lot of these, supernatural answers came from a time when we had no answers to the big questions. Now we're starting to get a lot of those answers.
Well, I think that religion does serve a purpose. That's why it's been around for such a long time. It gives people psychological, not really confidence, but it gives them something to sort of hold on to.
Yeah, and it's false.
Okay,
that's the point, though.
I would say it gives benefit for the individual, not as a society, not as,
right,
as countries to be run. As the individual, that's fine, as long as they're not going around chopping heads off.
I think we're all pretty much agreed here that religion does have aspects that are very dangerous. So I don't think we have to keep touching on that.
Those aspects that are dangerous outweigh the good.
Exactly. That's where the point of contention is. Like, I understand that you're saying that religion has some benefits, but I mean, like, the dangers from specifically these Abrahamic religions that I'm focused on they are more dangerous and divisive than they are good for humanity as a whole. I don't think they're conducive to the progress of humanity. I think they keep people stuck in ancient ways of thinking. Like, we need to encourage people to seek out the truth. And the more we run from the truth, the harder it's going to get to succeed as a species. I don't think moving forward that it's evolutionarily advantageous. I think people can find psychological comfort in things other than supernatural beings and like stories about people that are clearly not real.
Art.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I think religion is going to if it's allowed to evolve, it can evolve in such a way that I think. Well, now I'm kind of changing my thought. I apologize for that, but
no, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
No, I'm changing my thought midstream here. I think that because especially Christianity and Islam have such a hold on people and causes so many problems is because it's stuck in a book, meaning that your religion has to fit that book. If it doesn't fit that book, then it can't grow. You know what I mean? It can't expand, and it can't include things that are new in society, like new.
But then it doesn't need to be a religion, does
well,
it?
especially with Islam.
Yeah, you can
Islam,
you can do away.
On that point.
You can do away with the whole concept of religion and just adapt practices that are better suited to life now, that have nothing to do with the books, which is why I'm an anti-theist. The books are not necessary in order to live the best life.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that there are more people. I think in the past 50, 60 years, I think more people have been turning towards, for lack of a better word, a spiritual belief or spiritual path. So maybe they still believe in, say, a God figure or a monotheistic deity, but they don't practice that worship or that faith in the way that, say, a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim practices it. They sort of have their own, almost like Unitarians. They have this belief in a deity or a God, but they don't believe that they have to do certain things in order to, make him or her happy or, mad or whatever. So.
Well, with Christianity too, part of the problem is part of their very doctrine is to go out and seek converts, and you need to be ever vigilant, because we enjoy the separation of church and state, but it is always trying to creep its way in. Yeah. I mean, how many times are we having to fight off creationism taught in science classes as an alternative? How many, teach the controversy?
I just don't think gaps of I don't know need to be filled with God. Like, we need to be comfortable. Answer. Yeah, we need to be comfortable with not knowing some things, and if that information is available, we should be seeking it. Like, ignorance is bliss, sure, but I mean, for the greater good of humanity, I don't think it is.
That God of the gaps thing is what's kept us behind in actually finding out information. Because when people are told that God's the reason or God is the answer, there's no need to search for that fucking. Yeah.
As Neil deGrasse Tyson says, it's diminishing returns too. Then we had some answers, then we had more answers. Now we have a lot of answers. So now it's a God of the gaps. Before, when there was just one big gap, we didn't know anything about the sky or science or anything.
Or stars or whatever the hell was
it's a retreating position.
Mm-hmm. And now we don't know what happened before the Big Bang. Before it was.
But
and as long as we don't know, there must be a God.
It's just like, okay, we don't know what happened before the Big Bang. You know what that means? It means we just don't know. It doesn't mean that you should invoke a deity or invoke some scripture that tells you that God is the one who created everything.
Well, before the Big Bang, there was just a little bang.
Well, whatever there was. Like, whatever the hell there was. Okay?
There was a nice candlelit dinner before the Big Bang.
I don't think it's a good idea to just fill in the information because you don't feel comfortable not knowing. Not you, but like you as in everybody.
And as I'll say again, I have a great deal of resentment towards, you know, the people I looked up to in my youth for presenting me with bad answers rather than just saying, and that's very Carl Sagan-esque, you know, rather than, you know, saying some, you know, spiritual answer. Why not just say, I don't know, but you know what? You could be the first person to discover that.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I didn't, like I said, I didn't grow up in a very religious home, so I don't have any resentment against religion. I think it's completely ridiculous, you know, that people believe in, especially the concept of a monotheistic deity, you know, but that's what other people believe, and so, you know, I let them believe whatever it is that they want to believe, but the minute it starts encroaching my personal life choices or my, you know, or my girlfriend or my children or whatever, then I have a problem with it. But if somebody over here wants to believe whatever the fuck they want to believe and they're not harming anybody, I don't care.
But here's the thing. The problem is that these beliefs do affect our lives in the sense that, I mean, what happened with Bush? Like, oh yeah, we're not going to proceed with stem cell research because the soul, you know, like the soul has been conceived at the time of conception. So you can't save a life that is already that needs to be saved because we are refusing to do research because of this thing that comes from a religious belief. Like, this does have tangible effects on the world. It does prevent us from doing things and has prevented us from doing things that science could help us figure out and save lives. And I think that's wrong. Like, that is not moral to hinder progress because you believe with no evidence whatsoever that, oh, like the soul is created. Like, what about before the person was born? Like, does a blastocyst have a soul? Does a cluster of cells have a soul? No, it doesn't. Even the soul is a religious concept. It's not a real thing. I mean, now, sure, a lot of people use
because they
soul.
couldn't write up that your body would be taken to heaven because there's just no way that's going to happen. So
yeah,
had to put something with it.
Yeah, only Jesus gets to do that.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's definitely not a good thing, and that's why I think like religion itself that has a hold on people that prevents a lot of progress from occurring is obviously a bad thing.
Yeah, and I agree. There should be a separation between church and state. Our society should be secular. It should not allow Christianity to have an influence on, say, education, stem cell research.
But marriage, well enough said, separation of church and state. But as we identified earlier, you are not getting elected to high office in this country if you identify as an atheist.
You can't even say openly that you're an atheist. So, like,
I agree with you, but you're thinking in 2018. You're not thinking in 2028 or 2038 or 2048.
Yeah,
but again,
okay, it's fucking current year. Yeah, it's current year. Like, yeah, it's current year. Hell
current
yeah,
year,
like,
man.
No, that's like for this purpose, it's a good argument. No, it is, because look how much information we have access to. We have access to enough information to say that we should proceed with stem cell research and we should proceed with these things in order to help us. But we are not. And there's certain things that we are not able to, like abortion is still a problem because of religion. Religion is a huge reason that abortion is such a contentious subject.
It's the only religion.
What about being gay? Like, you can't even be gay without religious people having a fucking problem with that. Like, it does encroach on people's lives and freedom.
About their problem.
Yeah.
Hi, Aidan.
Yeah. I agree with you.
I didn't want to jump in the conversation.
Holy shit.
How's it going, Aidan?
Hi, everybody. I was enjoying your conversation. It's going really well. It's really good. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm like, no, it's okay.
Just kill the flow there.
No, it's totally fine.
Damn it, Aidan.
Good job, Aidan.
Jesus.
I assume you had something to add, so
yeah, I guess so. I mean, it was mainly prompted by what Ken was saying with regards to religion serving some kind of purpose, just by virtue of the fact that it's been around for a lot of human history, which I find that kind of, well, it's not really an argument. It's just fallacious. It's not. Yeah, well, it's appeal to nature. It's not really an argument, to say the least. But
okay.
And the other thing too is when you talk about like religion as well. Like, I'm just going to use Catholicism because it's the most pertinent example for what I'm going to get at. Like Catholicism itself has become more atheistic over time. Like the doctrines of Catholicism are changing with new discoveries and with regards to the age of the earth and like what is the communion host? Is it bread or is it Jesus? Right? No, it's bread. I mean, you'll ask the average Catholic, they'll tell you it's bread. So you've seen this slow rollback of like these actual like nonsensical, values over time. And it's coincided with just a rise in just better places to live, democratic, prosperous nations, like the United States, for example, which is founded on values like that, like rolling back these kinds of dogmatic, ritualistic things. So I don't know, that's kind of what I want to say.
Okay. Well, I agree with you, Aidan. Let me anchor down my position because I agree with you. That's too loosey-goosey. It's not good enough. So I believe that religion has been around as long as it's been around and continues to be here because it benefits people in the fact that it gives people comfort. It gives them something to believe in. It gives them a faith. When they need it, it is there. So it serves a social, it serves a psychological.
It's utility. It has utility.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it serves a community purpose. It organized the masses back in the day, but I think there was a little more malevolence behind it than that. I think it was for controlling purposes. Sure,
yeah.
Sure, it gave great community to and tribalism to villages and such, but it's a way to control the masses, especially when you invoke these laws, and you have to appeal to a higher authority. And the only higher authority is some spiritual, deity.
But would you say that slavery offers great utility to society? Because I think it does.
Absolutely.
Which chattel slavery? Like I'm talking like picking cotton slavery is just a net good for society, utilitarian wise, right? The utility of slavery, it just can't.
No, I don't. Yeah, no, I don't agree with that. I mean, if you want to convince me of it, you can.
Only if you consider the slave not part of that society.
Right.
Aidan, what's your opinion that it's beneficial?
I don't think slavery is a good thing. That's why I think it's
why did you use it as an example?
I don't think slavery.
No, he used it as an analogy to explain what you were saying.
Yeah, if your whole thing about religion that it's good is that it has utility, there are plenty of things that have utility that I think are morally wrong, right?
Yeah, okay. I was not comparing people's beliefs to a physical process.
What?
Picking cotton is a physical process, right?
You don't think going to church is you don't think
it's a physical process, but you don't have to go to church to pray. You don't.
No, you don't. But that's kind of what's expected in the Catholic Church, for example. Going with my example as well. Like the Catholic Church is built on people giving it money to sustain itself. It encourages people to come to the church, right? Right. That's part of it. It's part of being a Catholic is going to church. I used to be Catholic.
Yeah. I just, no offense, Aidan. I just think that that analogy is really, it's not very good.
No, that's a great analogy. He's talking about the utility of slavery. Like there is a utility to slavery, just as you're saying that religion has utility, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing. Slavery is bad. And in the same way, religion is bad. Like just because it has utility in some form or another doesn't mean that it's a good thing.
Like I could argue slavery is very natural, right, to the human condition.
Okay, but
I'm bigger than you.
Don't have to.
Right?
I can have faith in something and it has absolutely no effect upon you or anyone else.
But in the real world, it does. That's the point.
I'm in the real world, right?
I'm using extreme examples besides kind of the irrationality of your argument, right? I'm not trying to make an argument about slavery, right? I'm trying to say that your argument is that that the reason why religion is good is because it has some utility, which you haven't really established other than just kind of saying that it provides community, which I think it's debatable, quite frankly.
Yeah, I actually didn't say community. Someone else said
sorry,
community.
I didn't mean to.
It's okay. That's all right. What I said was that religion has been around for as long as it's been around because it has benefits for people. Those benefits are having faith in something, having a belief in something, being able to pray, and by praying, believing that something is going to happen.
So are you saying that faith is beneficial?
So if you pray hard enough, somebody's going to pick your cotton for you.
Okay, but are you saying that faith is beneficial?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. So I definitely disagree with that because faith, in essence, requires no evidence in order to have it.
Yeah, I agree with you. None of what I said has evidence to support it or facts.
So then why are you arguing for it?
I'm arguing for it because it serves a purpose. It serves a purpose for people.
Okay, but a lot of things serve a purpose for people. That doesn't mean it's a good thing overall, which is what this side of the argument is saying. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm wondering, like, do you have like family or something that's religious that you see this in effect? Like, I mean,
I'm sorry. Yes. So, like I said earlier, when I was growing up, I grew up in a family that was not very religious. I think we went to church maybe 3 or 4 times in my entire life. So we weren't very religious. My mother, when she was getting older and, you know, she's realizing that she was probably going to be passing away soon, she began to become more religious. And for her, it was beneficial for her to go through the stuff that she had to go through, having a stronger belief in whatever it is that she believed.
I guess at this point you need to quantify, right? Like good benefit, right? Like in that scenario, like how is that more beneficial than the alternative? And I'm not trying to say you should have told her that God's not real, because I would never do that. But like theoretically speaking, how is that more beneficial than her dying not believing in God?
Oh, no. You got me all wrong, Aidan. When I saw her dying on her deathbed in the hospital, hooked up to a machine, I told her, I said, Mother, you've been a great mother to me, but you know there's no fucking God. When you die, you're just going to die and there's no afterlife. But hey, thanks for all you've done. Bye-bye.
Did you do that?
Fuck no.
I just said I wouldn't do that, right? Because it's like a bad thing to do.
No. I mean,
I'm trying to say, can you imagine, like, just, you know, be charitable to my argument for a second. Can you imagine a situation in which your mother wasn't religious and how that would be not like beneficial, right? How you got to quantify the benefit in the scenario right now. I just looked up Wikipedia.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I'm kind of lost on that. But I mean, faith and belief has benefits to people in the sense that, from my perspective, it does something for them. So they find some happiness, some purpose in it. And so that's what I'm saying. And I guess you can't really put it on a scale. You can't really quantify it. You can't measure it in, you know, how much cotton one picks throughout their entire life. So yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what scale to, I don't know how I can measure it. I mean, I don't know, but I do know that it does benefit people, but I don't know how much.
Sorry, I don't mean to challenge you, but like, what do you mean by, like, how do you know?
You can challenge me. I don't care.
But what do you mean by, like, how do you know, like, you know, quantify that statement a bit?
Okay. I don't want to pull another Jordan. What do you?
Let's just run a conversation. Don't worry about it.
What do you mean by quantify?
Oh, sure. That's probably a bad word for what I mean. I guess my question is, what do you mean by?
Aidan, too much Steven Pinker. Quantitative analysis.
No, trust me.
So could you qualify all your shit, dude?
Qualify your shit. That should be on a t-shirt. Qualify your shit.
But like, I guess my question is, like, how do you know that? Because you said, like, I know that it's of a benefit. Like, I guess my question is, like, how do you, like, I mean, what's your basis for that statement, I suppose?
Knowing people who have gone through some hard times, facing their mortality, I have known that they had a belief in God, they had a belief in heaven, or in one other scenario that they believe in reincarnation, that they believe that that everything would work out in the end somehow. So this is just my perspective on that.
But why is religion needed for that?
Yeah, I think, delusion is not the only place that comfort can be found.
I don't think people should find comfort in lies.
Okay. What's your name? Is it Paul?
Paul, yes.
Oh, okay, Paul. Okay, so delusion. Can you expand on that? What do you mean by delusion? You think that people who are religious are delusional?
Well, once they add the supernatural component, absolutely.
And what are you basing that on, though?
Well, from my background, people used to give a lot of credibility to, things that came to people in dreams, revelation. They would actually give value to such thinking, and I can see no value in such thinking. And the argument that perhaps an afterlife may provide comfort to people, may have some merit, but again, to me, it's a delusion. And I think there's better ways to find comfort.
It's a delusion because there's no evidence to support any of the claims.
Mm-hmm. And the other part of this, like, this is kind of just coming to me now, but like, you're thinking in a like of a person that has a religious worldview and has only recently come to the idea that like atheism or humanist values or whatever the fuck you want to call it. If you're an atheist from the day you're born, who's to say that when you die, just by virtue of having just a good family and like, system of people around you, wouldn't provide the same kind of comfort in, when you're dying of a terminal illness, for example.
Oh, right? Oh yeah. Yeah, no, Aidan, I think there are plenty of people in this world who have gone through cancer. They have gone through all sorts of horrible things, faced death, and had no belief in anything after they died. They probably believe that they're going to die and that's it. They don't believe in an afterlife. They don't believe in reincarnation. They don't believe in anything. And they faced all of the other problems that any other religious person's been able to follow, sans any belief in any kind of a God or a heaven or anything like that.
Okay, so what's the benefit of it then? That's what we're trying to get at, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're making the claim that there is a benefit
secular
for some people
to everything. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're making the claim that for some people it is helpful to believe, right? Mm-hmm. But in what ways, when we're saying that there is a way to think all those the same ways without the need for any theistic basis?
Mm-hmm. Well, you can whenever you want, you can do a Google search. You can go to Psychology Today. What's the other one? There's a couple of articles. If you just type in, religion helps people or prayer helps people to deal with bad problems or go through hard times, articles will come up. I mean, I did a whole video on this a long time ago.
That sounds very confirmation bias-y, though. That sounds like confirmation bias, though. I mean, I'm sure there are studies out.
You mean these psychological studies of people is confirmation bias?
Well, I mean, if you're going to go to seek something to confirm that belief that prayer is beneficial, then yeah, that is confirmation bias. And nobody's saying that prayer or the belief isn't psychologically beneficial. That's exactly what I'm saying, is that it does provide a psychological safety blanket. But the argument here is that none of that shit is needed. There's a secular approach to these things without religion. You can still pray without religion. You can still believe that things are going to be okay without the application or implementation of lies. And the false sense of security is not going to help people deal with the actual difficult aspects of life in an adequate way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I keep falling back to the position of, looking at not just the three main religions, the Abrahamic religions, like you were talking about earlier. I keep, expanding it to all other religions. But I don't know if me going on Google and looking at articles and reading articles on studies that have been done on how people deal with problems with and without religion. So I don't know how that would be biased or biased confirmation. I don't know how that would be. It's like going to a neutral source, looking at the statistics, looking at the study, and drawing the conclusion from that. How's it going, Devon?
Hey, guys. What's
Hey.
up?
Devon?
I'm just listening to your discussion.
All right.
Thoughts?
I have more feelings than thoughts. So
Tell me your feelings and thoughts.
He said you can go research a certain thing, and if you type this in Google, it's going to give you a thing. And Amy said that's confirmation bias, and he's saying no, it's not.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So okay. Okay. All right. Well, I don't know.
Well, here's the question. But you're talking about deluding yourself. I heard it quite a bit. Okay. Deluding yourself is useful. Is that your premise?
No. So what it was what I was saying earlier was that we were talking about the benefits of religion for people, or what my position was, why I believe that for some people religion does serve a purpose, it serves a benefit, and we were talking about prayer and having faith and having a belief in God. And I had mentioned that there are studies, I did a video on it, there are studies that they did where they studied people who didn't have belief and who did have belief, who went through various problems, facing death, facing situations. And they did notice that the people who had faith were able to deal, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was.
I heard of a study which said the exact opposite, where people were in hospitals and trying to recover from illness, and if they knew that people were praying for them, they ended up not healing as well.
Mm-hmm.
So like they were trying to figure out if prayer worked. But I mean, let's cut to the chase. You don't believe any of it's real, right?
Right.
Right, but you're saying that if someone thinks something's real, it can have an effect that's positive, like a placebo effect.
Yes.
Right, but I mean, are we supposed to be impressed by that? Like, so lying to yourself could make you feel good for a temporary amount of time? I mean, isn't there a greater good that comes from living in accordance with reality than not lying to yourself?
I think that if that's your position, yes. But there are people in this world who have beliefs. They believe in heaven or they believe in God, and that's their belief, and it gets them through life. And hold on one second. And myself, I don't feel like going up to each one of these people and telling them, hey, what you believe is fucking ridiculous. I just I don't see a benefit in that. I think that I'm not going to agree with them. I'm not going to support them. But I'm not going to go out of my way to tell people, hey, you're a fucking idiot for believing that.
Okay, then don't do that. Is that your straw manning that the atheist community is doing that?
No.
Okay, so you're just making random points.
So you did miss a big chunk of this. Well, so I was in the chat room saying all these things, and then Amy said that I was an awesome guy who was really handsome and funny, and I should come on and talk. And so I started coming on and talking, and so I've been taking on the position of somebody who's a theist or trying to defend that position. So that's what I've been doing.
Do you care about the truth? Do you think that humans should pursue what is true and understand our situation in the universe?
I think we should look at the truth. I think that we should also look at a greater scope of things.
What does that mean?
Isn't that the greatest scope? Because you're talking about people, whatever makes them feel good, just lay off them, let them believe if it makes them deal with death better. I mean, by this logic, we should just drug everybody and just have a steady feed of, endorphin raising drugs, and we all feel good, and there's, whatever.
Yeah, you could do that, I guess. Right. But I was thinking that if people believe whatever it is that they believe, and as long as they're not strapping a bomb to their back and going into a crowd of people and blowing themselves up, I don't care. Or if they're not outside of my house, you know, protesting abortion or protesting gay marriage, I don't really care. As long as they're not bothering me or other people, I don't care if they believe in the spaghetti monster or, you know, whatever.
Well, that's very dismissive of you. I care. Do you care about what they teach their kids? Do you care about the next generation?
Yeah.
Yes, I do care about that. So I want to maintain a secular society and separate church from state. Yes.
Good. Yes. So if a family decides we don't believe in math anymore and we're just not going to abide by math and we disagree with math, I mean, is that a problem as well, or is it just whatever? That's your reality.
No, because then it would be interfering with.
How?
It would no longer be that would be what they believe. But if they're in school, they're going to learn about math.
But we are running into problems all the time.
Religion doesn't believe in math.
None. It was theoretical. But we run into problems all the time of people not sharing the same reality, whether it's the people who say there's multiple genders, and that's kind of one of the more innocuous ones. But it is eventually going to be a problem if people think, like, for example, thoughts and prayers. The reason that's so irritating for atheists is because we know it does, and it is nothing.
Right.
And so, resources will not be allocated because, we've already done enough. We did the thoughts and prayers thing. And I mean, there are some very insidious ways that this delusion operates. And the idea that it's just suicide bombers we have to worry about is kind of naive, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Devon, do you think there's any benefit to religion?
None that can't be replaced.
Okay.
And I think the benefits are demented and retarded and ultimately backward and wrong. So this idea that, hey, there's nice community in religion. There's nice community in cults.
Right.
There's nice community in pedophile chat rooms. It's like, this doesn't impress me. What are the benefits to religion aside from?
Well, I was asking you. I was asking you what.
Well, I'd say none. Yeah, okay. I mean, I understand that people can lie to themselves and they could feel better about things temporarily, but I think ultimately they're kidding themselves, and it's not a net good for people.
Yeah, because what I was saying earlier was that I believe that religion does have benefits to people, like having a belief in an afterlife or having faith or being able to pray. So I believe that those are benefits for people.
But why?
Okay, but wait a minute.
Why is believing in an afterlife a benefit?
I think I did explain that.
But you're acting like there's no integrity to human beings, like as if we can lie to ourselves, believe something that's false, but so long as it makes you feel happy, don't worry if it's true or not. I don't believe that at all. I would never condescend to someone and say, hey, I'm going to tell you something, convince you of something, just because I know it's going to make you feel good, even though I know it's not true. I wouldn't do that to somebody else, and I shouldn't disrespect myself enough to do it to myself.
Yeah, but at some point you reach a certain level of understanding and knowledge of something that you begin to break off, and you stop, like, keep testing everything to make sure it's a fact. And then at some point you do break off into just having, to his lack of a better word, a certain faith in something. I'm sure you can find some sort of an example.
So you're playing the semantics of we all have faith, so therefore don't quiz people who have faith.
No. I'm saying that. Yeah. Okay. Maybe it was a clumsy way of saying that. What I was saying was at some point we do have faith. We do have faith in just stuff around us. At some point we have faith in
That's
stuff
disingenuous, kind of.
I don't agree at all. What do I have faith in?
No, I don't know.
Oh, that the bridge, that the buildings that the people built have structural integrity. You have faith that it's not going to collapse. Like that's
but this is
the reasonable assumptions. They are.
My man, this is a language game that is basic Christian apologetics 101 from like 20 years ago. Like, I don't have faith. If I go on an airplane and it's it's Qantas Air, I don't have faith that the pilot is well trained and not drunk. I have reason to believe, based off evidence and based off an educated guess, common sense, that I'm in a system where he's not going to be drunk and where he will have been trained. In other words, there's a rational argument for why I believe that thing.
Well, let me completely change the subject for 1 second. So, Devon, you consider yourself to be an anti-theist, correct?
Yeah, I mean, by default, sure.
Now, how do you define anti-theism?
1 second, let me address my GF.
All right. Well, anyhow, I'd be interested to hear what he has to say about
I'll be
it.
back. I think his girlfriend just got home.
Yeah. So,
how do you feel? You're like around a bunch of people that disagree with you here, but like the conversation's going really well.
Hello, I'm here. I'm back.
Hi.
All right. So what was the question?
Okay, so the question was, how do you? Okay, first of all, you identify as an anti-theist, and how do you define anti-theism? I'm pulling a reverse Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, well, I think you might get bogged down with words. Anti is not an ideal word because it's anti. I'm a pro-truthist. I'm not a truther. I'm just in favor of the truth. I'm in favor of our scientific pursuit to understand reality and to live in accordance with it. So religion spits in the face of all that, and I'm against it for a variety of reasons, morally, scientifically, and in terms of general integrity. Like I know there's no reason to believe it, so therefore I find the entire institution to be obnoxious and outdated.
Mm-hmm.
So
that sounds.
Why am I against it? Yeah.
I was just going to say that just sounds like an atheistic position.
Well, no. What do you think anti-theists do? Go around like killing religious people? Like
I hope not.
It's a very simple distinction. I'm not just a non-believer. I'm not just going to sit
like bodies of priests in Amy's basement.
Right. I'm not just someone who sits in the sidelines and says, "Oh, that's not my thing," but to each their own. Mm-hmm. I recognize the wrongness of what they think, the dangers in it, the evils within it, the hideous teachings of their books. And I'm passing judgment on them, saying I'm against you guys believing in this obvious horseshit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and what form does that take? I mean, I know you make videos and stuff, but I mean,
I make videos and I comment, so I will not be neutral. So I don't have the desire to confront people, like you say, and just try to convince people out of religion. My videos have done that for a lot of people, and I feel like I've shot my load, and I feel like there's enough atheists now and enough atheistic arguments and anti-theistic arguments where it's doing the job by itself. It's on autopilot, essentially. Mm-hmm. So the atheists we don't want to be concerned with this shit. Just like I don't want to spend my life like Tommy Robinson reading the Quran and figuring out why each passage is wrong, because I want to do everything else. It's of no interest to me. But I'm glad somebody did it. It's just I don't want to waste my time with this shit because it's underneath me and I want to move past it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to listen to Amy eat carrots.
Yeah.
Does everybody have a beard? Is this are these weather beards you guys have? I feel like a lady boy. It's unbelievable.
The winter time, they keep their chins warm.
Yeah.
Canada, bro.
It's a bold move from what was that, Eric there? He's he's convinced that people will recognize him as male without having facial hair. It's quite a
I've had facial hair before.
Okay. Yeah, you look like you got a little 5 o'clock shadow there. So
I mean, I'll shave in the morning, and people think I haven't shaved for days by the afternoon.
What?
Because it grows in so thick.
Yeah, and then I have black hair, so it just
Oh yeah, it really shows.
Same here,
man.
bro. It's a struggle.
Yeah, when Amy grows her beard out, everybody notices.
So let's look at an analogy here and try to get some truth out of this. Milk it. So if somebody walks around thinking that, what's a bad band?
Nickelback.
Okay. Yeah, Nickelback is better than Nirvana. Okay, and this is their premise. This is what they believe in. They have groups. They meet every Sunday. They talk about Nickelback, how it's better than Nirvana. Now, it makes them happy. So how offended am I that it's not true, but in their estimation it is, and it makes them happy, so what's the harm? Is this the idea? Are you trying to paint religion as just, it's a choice, and it makes people happy, lay off?
Well, it is harm because they spread that shit that Nickelback is the better band. I mean,
Yeah, try to get it taught in science classes.
I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. Nickelback is fucking awesome.
Okay. But I guess what it comes down to, the major distinction is, with art, obviously it's subjective. Whatever you like is whatever you like. But even though you could make many objective arguments why Nirvana is better than Nickelback, I think the issue is when you make truth claims about the universe, about the biggest issues that face a human being, and they're not even your ideas either. These are the fucking bad ideas from thousands of generations ago. It becomes a problem for all of us. And as a race of people, as a species, it's very difficult to move forward to that Star Trek phase of our existence when we're dwelling on just basic questions that people are still getting wrong in a big way.
Yeah. I mean, I think that religion is going to be around. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. You know.
Well, you say that almost cockily, that this is a bad feature about us. But there's more atheists now than there ever has been. And
it sounds
religion
like a parcel argument.
I'm sorry. What'd you say, Grant?
I said it sounds like that part and parcel argument. No, it's just something here. It's just something we're gonna have to learn to deal with.
Yeah, but it's been explained.
No. I mean, that sounds very passive, Grant. I hope that's not how I sounded. What I meant to say is that I don't see religion going anywhere. So I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm saying, is that I don't think that people, the beliefs that people have, they're not going to go away. I mean, I guess we could outlaw it, or try to convince people.
We don't need to, though. Like, I mean, look at the UK. The UK is 59-60% non-religious.
Mm-hmm.
That's up from 0% 50 or 60 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's with the influx of Muslims.
None of us are really saying, to outlaw it. It's just like, hey.
No, but there is change. You could have made this argument and said, hey, slavery is going to be around, guys. It's not going anywhere. Homophobia is going to be around. I mean, we've seen huge progress and change. And yes, obviously this is a big project, but it's in a place now that is unprecedented in all of human history, where first of all, these ideas are being challenged for the first time in a public way without, the ramifications of getting burned or killed for heresy.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but I think that socially, slavery was, it was, they decided it was bad and outlawed it. And same thing with, I forgot what the other thing was that you mentioned. Gay marriage?
Homophobia.
Homophobia, thank you. Homophobia. Sure. Yeah, and so people started, it became socially unacceptable to be homophobic. If you are homophobic, you probably keep it to yourself, Okay. And I think it's kind of, go ahead.
We make incremental change. I'm sorry to cut you off. We progress on these things. There still is slavery in the world. There still is homophobia in the world. But the percentages have flip-flopped, and we've seen positive growth, just like we've seen positive growth with atheism and non-belief all around the world. Now we're faced with the problem of the threat of Islam, which is a more entrenched, even darker version of Christianity. It's harder to put a dent in that because they're still in that phase where it's locked up and you can't challenge it. And if you do, you're going to be killed. Like, that's part of the reason why it succeeded the way it has. So, but with Christianity, I think we're already taking a victory lap on that one. I don't know how many more generations needs to die off, but the numbers do not, it's not looking good for the future of Christianity, at least in the first world. I mean, obviously this message is going to take a while to creep down into Guatemala or wherever.
Well, I guess I have to come back to what I started this hangout saying, is that I guess my understanding of anti-theism is probably incorrect. I probably interpret anti-theism incorrectly, because it's sounding like you're not talking about anti-theism. It sounds like you're talking about theism and evolution of people's beliefs and thoughts.
well, maybe I am a renowned anti-theist. I'm on record for this. So it's not that I'm not an anti-theist. It's just that I'm bored with it. And I recognize, like you say, religion's going to be around. So why am I going to beat my head against this oak tree of religion every day and be like, oh, there's still religious people? Like, nobody wants to waste their life with that shit. So it's just we've moved on from a place of we've reached a critical mass. We've said our piece. Now, what you'll find sometimes are anti-theists who are fresh off the boat. They used to be religious. Now they're not. They're kind of mad at themselves, their former versions of themselves. So they need to vent about it, and they take it out on the religious. Mm-hmm. Those kind of people can be obnoxious because it's almost like they're having a conversation with themselves, but it's pointed at someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in a chat room with Friended Forever. Oh, he was having one of his hangouts. Yeah.
Well, I mean, honestly, I think we're all tied to who we love, and most of the time, all of us have people in our life whom we love, family, that are religious. And therefore, anything you say about religion, you're basically saying about them. Yeah. You want to disparage the religious, you're talking shit about your parents.
Yeah, I came across that when I shared an atheist post on Facebook. I'm not going to do that again. It wasn't like neither my parents are religious. Like my dad, atheist, my mom believes in God. However, my aunt is very Catholic. I shared an atheist post, and my mom up, and she freaked out on her. And my mom is like, "Could you not do that?"
Right.
Please,
it's very hard. It's very conflicting because we understand that this is what they were taught. We understand the terror of looking into the abyss of this universe and like, oh shit, we're here by ourselves, like, or potentially not, but could be other life out there. But it doesn't look like there's a God, so oh Christ. So we have some sympathy for the situation. I mean, we're not immune to this. We're not just like bravely soldiering on, going, fuck it, man, I don't care. I don't care that my existence is going to be snuffed out and there's no point. I'm just tough. I'm like Clint Eastwood with this shit. No. So we're in the same boat here. It's not like, yay, we're atheists and now we're free from all of these existential concerns. We're not. It's just we know that this is probably how it is, most definitely, the situation we're looking at, and we're trying to confront it rather than kind of bitching out and lying to ourselves, which seems like cowardly and beneath us.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I have like high expectations for myself to seek the truth. So because of that, I also have those expectations for other people. Like I think that people are capable of facing the truth as difficult as it is, instead of like being like, you know what? I think you're a little too stupid and you do need religion because you can't handle the truth,
Right. It's like talking down to them. And let's be honest, it's goddamn near a miracle that Amy's not worshiping an elephant god right now. That's what she's supposed to be doing.
Multiple armed elephant god.
Mm-hmm. Yes, with that mouse.
I think we're so deeply into the internet generation that we're not quite looking at this from a broader spectrum. Let's give 100 years with atheism and the internet, and let's see what that does.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the spread of atheistic thought has definitely been enhanced by the internet. Like I mentioned earlier, that there was a Greek philosopher who was an atheist. So atheism itself has been around for thousands of years. But yeah, I agree. I think with the internet, there's a lot of information. A lot of people have access to information. Unfortunately, not all of it's correct. But people have access to a lot of information. They have access to YouTube, and they have access to, maybe they might have been somebody who believes that they don't believe in God, but they kind of go through the motions and act like they do. Then they go onto YouTube, they watch one of your videos, AIU, and, they laugh, they piss themselves in the pants, and all of a sudden they say, you know what? There's more atheists out there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very empowering to be surrounded by people who are speaking a certain way and presenting ideas that are compelling. Because before, atheists they were like gay people from the 1940s. It was like there was one in every town, or, there are obviously more, but you felt so isolated. But there will be a point where you reach, depending on your region, like Grant lives in a totally Christian region, But me in Germany, me in England, me in Australia, I don't see Christians. I barely, like, if I see one, I want to take a picture like I'm a tourist. I'm like, oh, look, it's a Christian. But like if you go to Disneyland or if you go to certain parts of this world, it's obviously everywhere. The religion still dominates the scene.
However, like, you know, I became more outspoken about atheism because of social media and YouTube. However, in the real world, I've experienced more pushback about atheism. And like one of the places I experienced it was in San Francisco, and more specifically, the Castro district. I was walking with my friend down there. He lived close by. I was wearing the hoodie, and some guy just randomly shouted at me, "Hey, don't you think devotion to atheism is just as bad as like Christianity or some bullshit like that?" And I didn't stop. I'm just like, okay, whatever. I just walked by, but I'm just like, if I'm getting pushed back, I'm being an outspoken atheist in the Castro district.
Well,
he was probably a tourist.
There's still long ways to go.
He was there to pry away the gay for some of the dudes there.
But I don't know how long you were in San Francisco, Eric. But there's preachers who set up at Powell and Market, right where the cable car turns around. You get out there with the bullhorn.
I didn't live in San Francisco. I was like only there for a few days. A friend of mine and his fiance lived there. I was in LA for about a year before that. But still, I'm just like, I don't know if this guy was like an itinerant preacher, street preacher or whatever, but the fact that someone in the Castro district like, you know, was giving me shit about that was like, what? And it was kind of was a little bit off-putting.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's kind of weird.
I think that there's a lot of good signs here, though. I mean, if you look at England or Scandinavia at large, even Germany, and look at how religion is just a throwaway afterthought of a joke. Like nobody takes it serious, especially not the young people. It's like, oh yeah, the church is there, but you know, we rent it out for karaoke nights on Saturdays. It's like nobody cares. Now, America can easily become that. It can easily become that. And if you look at something else like global Judaism, Reform Judaism, and the amount of atheism within that group of people, it's astounding. I mean, these are really good trends, and they're being replicated. So I don't think it's as glum or as, you know, dire of a situation of, oh, it's going to be here forever. I think it's on its way to being diminished to being like a niche hobby and occupation for people who are still crazy. They'll always be crazy. There's always going to be stupid. And we're all going to be dead, and there's still going to be crazy and stupid people. But in a few generations, we might be on a course correction here where the path is looking good, not so bad.
There'd be less crazy and less stupid, right?
Yeah, that's all you can hope for. I mean, same thing with the environment, same thing with veganism. You could hope that we make a change that is in the positive direction. You know, but those are massive problems too. Poverty. You know, it's all in the way you approach it.
I mean, like, you know, and I remember reading a couple of years ago, like, overall, like, the world has been, like, at a record low poverty rate.
Yeah, things are improving. You know, that's what Pinker's new book is all about.
We have a vaccine for polio.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just that in itself, we're decades ahead of people, like, in the 1910s.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we have a cure for polio. You know, disabled countless people. Well, I'm not countless, like thousands of people. But still, just something simple as that.
We still have some milestones in America, especially to break through in terms of having political leaders get up and cut.
And just say they're atheists?
Yeah, just be like, yeah, there is no God. Not ending every speech with "God bless America."
Yeah.
You know, it's just so retarded.
Well,
you know, but that's the crowd's going, man. Like, that's the problem.
Every other thing our founding fathers believed in and were adamant about, we've sort of peeled back and said, well, let's take this statue down. And they were a bit off with this. So it's just a matter of time before people have the courage or the political practicality of making this happen.
Well, didn't Ben Franklin, it was one of the founding fathers, either like John Adams or Ben Franklin said that lighthouses were more useful than churches. I think it was Ben Franklin.
Sounds like you would say.
Sounds like Franklin.
Sounds like somebody who lived along the coast.
Yeah.
Living in the middle of America, you're not going to be thinking that way.
The thing is, we are in a little bubble here, the atheist bubble. So, and I'm happy to be there. It's just the arguments, all the arguments that we know, backwards and forwards, they have not penetrated to just the common man. So something like the burden of proof, they don't know, they don't understand that.
No.
Pascal's wager, they don't understand why Pascal's wager is not a wager you should take. Like they think, oh yeah, that's a good way to live my life. Like, so it's going to take a while for the YouTube videos and the word of mouth and the, you know, the books are going to be read and the audio books, the podcasts. It's still in the early phase here of atheists explaining their case.
Well, I mean, if Shives of all people figure out that God is not real, like, you know, what excuse does that mean?
Shives is a doof.
Shives, I know, it's astonishing.
Shives is a whole nother different animal.
Yeah.
But that's what's weird.
Yeah, but I mean, like, again, like, you know, it's Shives can figure that stuff out. Like, you know, what's anyone else's?
I don't know.
There was
got to figure it out.
there's a major whiplash effect. I was shocked when I was talking to atheists. So originally I entered this community online, YouTube, and it's a bunch of atheists. And I had an assumption that everybody here was smart. Like, to a certain degree smart, you know, because I'm coming out of a college. So like you go to a college and there's a filtering process. So you talk to someone in college, you assume that they're pretty bright to be at an elite university. And so you speak to them in a different way. You assume they know things. And so that's why it was shocking when you hear all these SJWs coming out of the atheist community. And you're like, wait a minute, did I give you too much credit? Why? And then you ask, why are you an atheist? You explain to me the logic of what made you an atheist. And then let me try to figure out how you can't use that same rational thought to figure out all this other shit. Like I'm sitting here talking to Cult of Dusty, who brags about optical.
No. Just avoid Cult of Dusty. Trust me.
He's gone off the deep end.
But that is interesting because it is not a guarantee. Just because you get atheism right, it's kind of an easy one. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're going to get anything else right. And it doesn't mean that your brain is some well-oiled machine that can just process facts and weigh evidence. No. Everybody thinks, oh, I'm a skeptic, I'm this and that. There's a bunch of posers out there who are like, I've figured out one thing, so I'm a genius.
Yeah. I mean, like, Molyneux is a atheist technically, but he's like a Christian, cultural Christian.
That is fucking bullshit. I'm a cultural Christian. I mean, isn't that kind of like the Jew cop-out?
Anders Breivik was a cultural Christian.
Well, I thought Stefan Molyneux was a Christian.
Well, no. He's like, like
he originally was an atheist, and he walked it back.
And he brings about, like, you know, he believes like, you know, in terms of scientific proof, like, you know, atheism is the correct one, but you know, he pretty much says, like, you know, all right, you take away Christianity, like, you know, where's society at, and blah 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 blah, and just
yeah, you know, it's a weird.
He's got his ass planted on the porch.
That's the Jordan Peterson argument. We have no values. Society will crumble without the base Judeo-Christian values keeping it afloat and keeping it
going. You notice how that's all spoken in fear.
See, I don't understand people who do that. I can understand somebody who's a religious and they become atheistic, but I don't understand how somebody who's an atheist can become a religious. That I don't understand, because I feel like there's a wall you have to break down, and once you break down that wall, that's it. I don't think there's any way you can rebuild it. I think that once that wall is broken, that's it. You're not going back.
It's a lot of incentive, right? People do it because they meet someone who's really hot and religious, or like they find they can make a lot of money, like, you know, saying religious shit. So I don't know, it's opportunistic.
My favorite is when Peterson says, consciousness is really confusing. We don't know everything about it. So resurrection might be possible.
I was watching a video on him earlier today where he's talking about how he's like, I have to think about that a little bit more. And it was one of those binary questions again, where it's like yes or no. His answer to the resurrection, when he's like, well, I guess the next thing to ask is, what do you mean by Jesus Christ? Like
he's never thought of it before, you know? It's the first time he's ever been asked this question. It's like, no, it's not.
Okay.
But it's really manipulative because
criticisms you can have at Ken Ham, like, you know, at the very least, if you ask him, does he believe in the resurrection of Christ? I'm sure he would at least say, give an automatic yes. You know,
right.
he would get, yeah, he would at least.
But the thing is, people are holding up Ken Ham as a fucking intellectual.
Mm-hmm.
People are holding Jordan Peterson up as an intellectual, and he can't answer simple questions.
Well, the thing about consciousness is that is a fascinating thing, and that is the next huge hurdle for us to conquer and crack. Mm-hmm. But so be it. That has nothing to do with religious claims, and it harkens back to a time when, you know, the dumb masses were impressed by someone like, say, walking on water, and you go, hey, there's a dude walking on water. So what? The correct answer to that is, well, how is he doing that? And even if they go, well, it's magic. Okay, well then, so what? A guy can walk on water. Then they go, well, no, now you have to believe everything else he says. Wait, why? Mm-hmm. Why would I believe a guy who can walk on? It's like, it makes no sense. Like Michael Jordan can jump high, jump higher than most other people. Okay, and? Well, okay, well then listen to what he says you should do with gays. It's like, no.
Yeah.
He's a guy, I'll listen to what he says about leg exercises, if anything.
So Devon, when are you going to start doing blood sports on your channel?
This is blood sports.
Tell me what you believe. What do you believe in?
I think the Tonka Saw guy just tweeted me. He said he invited me on the show, so I said, yeah, I'll do it. I'll go on the show. But I don't want to.
When are you going to do it?
I think he said when Andy comes back from LA, so I don't know. Whenever.
Oh, are you going to give Andy shit about that? Walking around LA being a douche?
Yeah. Douche. I will.
Douche.
So he's getting a lot of shit from a lot of people that I don't like. So you know, we have common enemies, and you know, I don't know what these guys are about. I don't know what they care about. You know, people define themselves as right and left, but it's really weird because they're not even political.
Yeah.
You think Andy Worski's like following politics, daily politics?
I think Andy is not very clever.
How many congressmen can Andy name?
Well, he's Canadian.
Doesn't matter.
Well, then he's exempt.
Okay, but I mean, it's just funny that, you know, he's a right winger. In what way? How? Yeah.
I think people just call him alt-right now, don't they?
Well, it's very funny because the political landscape is so toxic that both the right and the left are bad words. So if you say someone's on the far right, or just, no, they're right wing, that's a bad term. If you say someone's a lefty, they're on the left, some leftist, that's a negative term. Yeah. So there's nowhere to be. And then you get these jackasses running to the middle going, I'm the new middle, I'm the center. Cenk Uygur called himself the new center.
Oh.
I was like, holy shit.
Oh, yeah, I hate that guy. A large, massive
alt middle.
That's about it.
That's like saying that Fresno is the new center of America. Because you have to be from California to understand that.
Yeah, no, Fresno's in California.
Well, Berkeley almost became the capital of California.
Yep, and it was going to be, San Diego was supposed to be the major city in the South, but
Sacramento, or am I just retarded?
Yeah, Sacramento's the capital now.
Yeah, like when was Berkeley supposed to be the capital?
Well, I don't know the entire history, but Berkeley at some point they were like voting or whatever, and it was going to be the capital of California, and I don't know somehow.
Well, the basic idea is you don't have your.
It's a while ago. It wasn't recent.
It was a very long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have your political capital with your population center because of revolution, so you stash it somewhere else. That's the general thinking behind why they choose random capital cities.
Are you talking about the ideas revolution?
Huh.
I mean, that's the weird thing I notice about state capitals is very rarely the capitals match up with like the major city. of that particular state. There are exceptions, you know, like Boston is the capital, and that's the big city. Massachusetts.
Well, here's the thing. In today's day and age, physical location means fuck all. I mean, everybody has Skype, everybody has emails. You could have your representatives scattered all around the nation. They don't have to sit in a room together and jerk each other off. This is an ancient way of thinking.
Right.
And we should have online voting too. We should have some blockchain come up with some way of having people vote online, because I don't no idea why that's an impossibility.
So easy. Well, for us, you could just use your social insurance number, and obviously you can only use it one time, and then submit your vote with your social insurance number.
Yeah, scan your eyeball.
I do agree that that's feasible, but that's gonna take at least a few years to implement, because I've met in jobs I've had dealing with older people on the phone where just stuff everyone here would take for granted, like typing in a web address, like a lot of older people who are barely computer literate, they can't even do that.
You know what it is?
I'm not saying that's a bad idea. I'm not saying that's a bad idea in general. I'm just saying, it would have to take a while. It might take a few years for that to get fully implemented to do a internet.
That's not including the pushback that idea would get.
Well, we're doing everything else online, and we have our bank accounts, the major monetary transactions. The freaking gamers and the porn people, they're innovating like crazy. They're probably doing live heart transplants right now on Twitch. I mean, yeah, it's actually crazy. The guy who won Eurovision, Portuguese guy, he just got a heart transplant. He's like 28 years old, a full heart transplant also. Oh, wow. And he's going to come back and sing probably some song about love and hearts.
So scary. Like, getting a heart transplant is not as simple as just getting a heart transplant. You have to take really expensive drugs.
If you did a cover of a heart-shaped box.
Imagine trying to get to Amy's heart through those massive tits.
It would be so hard.
What does your shirt say?
Me?
Amy,
Keeping it chill. The penguin.
Keeping it chill.
Ooh, the penguin. Well, gentlemen, how are we doing? Are we good? Are we conversationed out?
I think so.
I'm on the couch.
Definitely conversated out.
Okay. Well, it was really nice. Thank you for joining me this evening. Thanks for coming on, Ken. Thanks for coming on, everybody. It was a great conversation. It's really nice to be able to just sit and chat. Thanks for coming, Devon, even though you're muted. I love you the most. The mostest! And Aidan, and Eric, and Ken, and Marc over there on the couch, and Gwenty, and Paul. Love you guys.
Thank you, Amy. This was fun.
All right, homies. Have a great day. On 3. No, you have to say bye with me. Bye. 1, 2, 3. Bye.
Bye.